What you're about to hear was supposed to be episode 150. However, God Mode came up, and I'm really stoked to have that as episode 150. And as I said then, I think I sort of blew the 150 thing out of proportion. This episode was recorded a bit over a month ago, and it's interesting how fast time moves in a month. However, it goes in a different direction than I thought it was going to go. Basically, I ran out of ideas and steam for 150, so I told Angus to interview me. And he asked me some different questions, and there's a lot of stuff that I say on this episode that I've never said before, because we more talked about hobbies. We talked about cycling and shooting the bow and all sorts of stuff. And I was gonna edit it, however, fuck it. I think I had a bit of an epiphany around the podcast over the last little while. And I think what happened last year, obviously the overshadowing and the foreboding presence of the Western civilization in freefall mode has been a little bit of a distraction. However, I think I allowed a few things to take the wind out of my sails last year, and I allowed myself to have other people affect what I was doing. And we go back to one of the core pieces of the code. It is that you should not allow others to affect what you're doing. So the research is going to continue. I don't know in what form and how often you'll get an episode from me this year, but I'm not stopping. And I'm reaching out to a few different people again just to test the waters and see whether or not they wanted to come on and have a discussion. Because the reality is, I can't stop doing this. And although my focus is spread across a few different things with everything that's going on, I still want to dedicate time to this and time to the research. And hopefully one day we can go back to it full time and make those discoveries that I believe are still out there. We're going to look into a few new ideas. I'm floating some more research stuff, and as I said, I'm going to reach out to some other people and see what they're doing. I don't have too much more for this intro, so I think I'll shut up and let you guys get into it. I decided we're going to use Waiting for the World to Change, which is an original one of Angus's covers. And it was the original song of the podcast, so I thought we'd throw that one in for some fun. I think we'll finish with White Buffalo as well, just to keep it organic and homegrown, unlocking the code. Please look after yourself, stay safe, be kind, be cool, prepare, engage discipline, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Waiting on the world to change. Keep waiting. Waiting on the world to change. Their generation is gonna rule the population. Keep waiting. Waiting on the world to change. Keep waiting. Waiting on the world to change.
But listen, dude, I'm not going to get all fucking woo-woo on it. This is a safe space. This is a sacred space. The refinery will always be a sacred space. And because of that sacred space, we are protected and we can discuss whatever we choose to discuss, free of influence and any understanding that we know nothing. So it doesn't fucking really matter anyway.
Exactly. You recording?
Yeah, man.
Well, on that note, I should welcome you all to the 150th edition of Unlocking the Code podcast, Christmas style.
Yeah, the end of the year.
And tonight's going to be a little bit different because Angus, the mechanism McDermott, will be fucking taking over the airwaves. And my guest here I'm joined with tonight is the one and only, I don't even have...
Oh, thanks.
You know what? No. I'm going to run with the original. The original from when I met you over the fence.
Yeah.
It was Triffendor over fence. That's what you were saved in my phone as for fucking the first year.
Yeah. Triffendor over the fence. Yeah.
No. Over fence.
Over fence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Over fence is your last name. Triffendor was the first name.
Yeah. Right.
It just rolled off the tongue. So I'm going to run with that nomenclature. So I'm joined by the aforementioned guest, Triffendor over fence. And we're going to do it a little bit differently tonight. We're just going to touch base on reflect, really.
Yeah, reflections is where I came to, yeah.
Reflections is what you hit me with when we were talking on the phone the other day.
Mm.
And that's really what I was thinking of, was reflecting back across... I'm fumbling because I don't want to say journey.
Yeah.
Because journey's been done.
Yeah.
About
the missions.
I think 2.5 years ago it died. But... thinking back over the journey that is the UTC podcast and the close to 5 years and 150 episodes that Triff's done and I've done some of, and then the lucky other people that got to do the other ones to make up the rest of the numbers. But I guess I wanted to head in tonight with some simple questions to start with.
Yeah.
And just sort of meander down the garden path of things that we've done, either together or individually, sort of thing.
Yeah, there is no plan, man. I what I wanted to do tonight was just have you ask me some questions to really reflect, right? You know, 150 is a nice round number, and look, as the listeners know, this is not the end, but I don't know after this when the next episode will be.
Yeah, you were discussing earlier off record that there could be a pause.
Yeah.
There could be a pause in it at this point in time, and we spoke about filling our cups sort of thing, and sometimes something that may have once filled your cup might get a little bit stale in the cup, and you may need to reinvigorate by focusing more on other areas.
Yeah, and I think there's...
So there may even be podcasts pop up from time to time, sort of thing.
The research never stops, man. However,
and like you said to me, you said it's definitely not over, but it just may go on hiatus for a little while.
Yeah,
we'll see what turns up in this chaotic world we live in.
Exactly.
We don't know what the circumstances are.
No, and
sometimes the best thing to do is wait.
Yeah,
and see.
Yeah,
sort of thing. So, moving on.
What is your first question?
Mate, I wanted to start nice and easy. Not only for you, but for me, because I don't sit on this side of the microphone very often.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd just ask. I thought I would just start with cycling.
Cycling. Okay.
Cycling.
Right.
And see, this is what I mean. You're smiling.
Yeah, okay,
you're smiling.
Cool. Yep.
When I said I was going to take it easy, you didn't think this easy.
No.
Sort of thing. I was like, no, it's going to be just a lighthearted conversation.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can create any rabbit holes or
there's always rabbit holes
or
mate.
things tangents
So
that we can delve down.
So what about cycling, mate? I mean, that's something that we, the last time we had a podcast with that had the word reflection in it was reflection time, and it was like the week or so after we got the bowls, mate. And we had the bowls set up against the fire. Remember that? We had the bowls set up against the fire, and we were talking about the journey to those steeds, mate.
Well, let's start with that. Are you, in reflection, was the bold the right choice? Because
yes.
So we both ride Focus Bolds.
Yes, hardtails.
Which are a hardtail trail bike, I guess you'd call them. I think that's the classification they fit into. So they're not the lightest bikes. They're not XC. They're a little bit slacker in the head stem.
Yeah, and a bit more heavy duty as well.
A little bit more heavy duty. That's why they're sort of not as light. We're running single speed with, are they 10 or 12 speed?
Mine's 10, yours is 11, I think. And that was the difference in the bikes, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, we're running single speed mountain bikes. And I think we've got a little more travel than like an XC bike. I think we run 140 mil or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Sort of thing in the fork. It's a little bit heavier fork. So we ride trail bikes, basically. Hardtail trail bikes.
Look, that bike, the bowl that sits out there, is the best purchase I've ever made for myself.
Yep.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
But did you ever look further into any other bikes? You remember how we had the Growler for a little bit? Yeah. I actually enjoyed the Growler more than I've ever enjoyed my Bold. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of buyer's remorse on my Bold.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it as much as I want to.
Look,
and as much to say that I was thinking about the other day, because I've been talking to my wife a bit, because the kids are getting more active, been talking about doing some family rides and stuff like that, because I've got a 2-person trailer now, so I can put the baby and the toddler in that. Kynan can ride slowly. I've got enough bikes for the missus. Yeah. So that got me sort of back thinking about riding, because I've been out of the riding saddle now for a little while.
Yeah.
But you know what I thought about? I thought about the fucking Kona, the drop bar Kona.
Yeah.
I had more fun on that bike. Like, I did Manchester on that bike.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And it held up fucking...
Yeah, it was cracked.
That rear rim was so cracked. Every single spoke
was cracked.
Had a crack.
But I suppose the question is, have I looked at dual suspension, probably like trail bikes, cross-country bikes, or XC bikes, I suppose they are?
Yeah.
Sort of mid-range dual suspension. Have I looked at those long and hard? Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Has the resources been available to acquire such a bike? No.
But do you ever think about, like, what if you had have gone something like that instead of the Bold sort of thing? So, like, you don't have the extra resources on top of the Bold.
Yeah.
But do you think about the resources you acquired for the Bold? What if you had have either A, bought something that was the same price as the Bold, or B, saved a little longer, spent a little more?
I've looked at... Look, the thing is that with the Polygon bikes and a few other things that you can get a decent dual suspension bike with all the fruit on it.
Yeah.
For not pretty reasonable price now.
Yeah.
Back then when we bought the hardtails, the dual suspension were just out of reach.
Yes.
And I suppose for me, we want to talk about cycling. And I'm not allowed to, but Soul Ride is on the same page as Journey. We're not allowed to use that. But riding for me is really a soul experience. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the reason that I got back into riding when we back on Gary to try and get my fitness back up, if you remember, it was, why am I doing the podcast and why do I ride my bike? When I was younger in Ballarat, the two things that I used to love fucking doing, and even when I went to Nhulunbuy, I rode everywhere. I rode everywhere, dude. I was on my fucking bike everywhere,
Yeah.
And the best bike I had was a Melbourne Star Bronco. It was black with green, fluoro green. Very similar, actually. I looked at the bowl the other day and, that's got fluoro green. That's what the Melbourne Star had as well. It was fluoro green graphics, Bronco. It had, it was that early of a mountain bike. It had racing bike forks on it.
Mm-hmm.
Had the skinny curved forks on
forward.
it.
I know the ones. Yep.
And I fucked those, right? And put a set of hard, like chrome alloy fucking solid forks on it.
Yeah.
And no shit, that bike, that Melbourne Star Bronco, was still riding around up till about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yep.
Right? I gave it to a good mate of mine in Ballarat, and he had it, and it was riding to and from places for 25 years, right?
Yep.
Like, that's the reality. And when I saw that echo only just occurred to me not long ago about the fluoro green.
Yeah.
When I saw that grey Focus with the fluoro green graphics and the big fat tyres on it, and it was a hardtail, so I knew I could ride it.
Yeah.
Right? It was nothing.
There was no new skill set.
There was no new skill set that
needed.
I had to master.
Yeah.
Didn't have to learn about shocks and all that sort of shit. I already had a front shock bike. Okay. That bike for me, I will never ever regret buying that bike.
Yeah.
Because I've done, and it's not something I post about very much anymore, but I've done getting up to nearly 3,000 Ks on that bike.
Yeah.
Right? Most of it on the rail trail, granted, because that's where we live.
Yeah.
And being a father of small children, I either ride on the rail trail.
constraints,
I've got an hour, so how far can I ride in an hour?
Yeah.
Right? And that's basically what the game was, you know what I mean? And I can ride 20 Ks now in an hour.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about when we started, we used to ride to the sign and back. It used to take us 45 minutes, you know what I mean?
It was like 10 or 11.
Yeah. So I would never regret buying the Focus only because where it's taken me.
Yep.
And on so many occasions, like, I'm actually feeling the pull at the moment.
Yep.
Because it's been wet. I haven't been able to ride.
Yeah.
Look, mud's fine, but it's annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially if it's not like
if I'm not
gravity, not gravity assisted.
No, if I'm in a trail and I'm punching through jumps and crop it off,
exactly. You don't mind a little bit of mud, but when you're grinding through it on a fucking flat trail, it's pretty fucking
it's unnecessary.
Boring. Yeah.
But see, I'll get on that bike probably tomorrow, maybe the next day, and I will feel fucking better. Right? And that's that bike.
Yep.
So would I, and has my lower back, and would my lower back have enjoyed dual suspension mountain bike? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I'll be honest, I'm not ashamed. I'm wearing 2 pairs of knickers these days to deal with my bum. Right? Well, fuck it. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, you got to do what you got to
do.
do. Adapt and overcome.
I don't care anymore.
You had a goal to fucking stay on the bike, and you had a problem. So it's like solve the problems to get the reward.
Yeah, man. Look, I've done 3,000 Ks.
There's no judgment.
No, exactly. So yeah, look, man, I'd never regret it. So I fell in love with that bike. It was awesome to get it, and it's been awesome to have. And I'll never ever get rid of it. And and I think obviously Switch Bike Code doesn't exist anymore. There's stickers on the door there, which is that is what it is. It's unfortunate times. They're one of many businesses. Yeah. Sash is still going with a graphic design thing. Actually, I've got I'm sort of in a bit of a chat with him about making some stuff for UTC, which I might do still.
Yeah.
And I'll promote that if that happens. However, both Sash and Stu said to me when I took the bike in, they said, "You've ridden this, but you've looked after it."
Yeah.
And to me, that was the biggest compliment that I could have because I have looked after it, but I've fucking ridden it. You know what I mean? Like, I've ridden that bike.
Yeah.
I've got no dramas taking that bike into any trail now because me and it are one. I know what it can do, and it's still better than me, just for the record.
Yeah.
Right? It saved me more than I've saved it. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You see, and probably from my perspective, the thing that I enjoyed the most about riding the Bolds was Colo.
Yes.
That was bordering on their playground.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And I think the reason I haven't enjoyed the Bold It's because we just never ventured there, weren't able to venture there often enough.
Well, small kids, times constraints.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think I had to accept. Like, am I tired of riding the rail trail? Yes, I am. Okay. However, is riding in a risk analysis, is riding the rail trail better than not riding?
Yeah.
No, it's not. And the thing is, I've been able to push myself where I can get to Barellan and back if I'm punching it in a bit over an hour. So all the way to Barellan, you got to cross the highway. There's the little dip and there's the 3 jumps. There's actually, once you get on the other side of the highway, there's an interesting little section that you can't master. You know what I mean? Every time you go through there, it's different.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard to get to Colo, man. Like I miss Colo, but the electric bikes of last time I was at Colo, because I did go there. It was this year, I think. I went for a lap around there, and it was chewed up, man. And like it was skatey, like the hard tail. I've been on a few like you talk about. Do I want a dual suspension? Have been to a few mountain bike parks, like on the north side and stuff, where I chucked the bike in the ute when I was driving the ute, and I went to a few mountain bike parks, and I fully understand why dual suspension bikes exist.
Yeah.
Because some of those tracks, man, I was skatey.
Yeah.
And bouncy.
Yeah.
And it was not pleasant. I thought I was going to crash, basically. And I'm like, oh, this is why a dual suspension mountain bike exists. Because if I had that flexibility in the rear, I'd be totally fine. And I think
it's another ball game.
Yeah, but Colo's been torn up to the point by the electric bikes because they're dual suspension
and they're heavier.
That a hardtail through that sketchy stuff that used to be challenging it's sketchy.
Yeah.
You know,
and
so
on top of that, tire pressures and some of the other things that riders with more time and money have, like cush core shit and stuff like that, running tubeless, so as they can drop their pressures right down and all that, all attributes to bike handling, basically.
But I'll never. The Bold will be with me forever, mate. It's not fucking going anywhere.
Yep.
And I'll ride it forever.
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying about the rail trail, because for me, something that I learned about myself is I really appreciate lightness in a bike, and my bike just doesn't have that.
No.
That's something that I learned, and
because yours is chunkier than mine again.
Yeah, and I kick myself a little bit, right? Because there was a point in the search for the Bold where I was leaning towards like low tier, mid tier, like chromoly dual suspension XC bike.
Yeah.
Was what I was looking at.
And that's what I'd get now.
Yeah.
Like, having ridden what I've ridden, I want an adaptive rear I want an adaptive rear shock.
Yeah, you can lock out.
That I can lock out, or I can set to hard or medium or soft, right? And that's what you're talking about. A chrome alloy, still a steel frame, XC bike, 120, 130 mil suspension, both ends, 150 maybe.
Yeah.
And absolutely. That's where I'd go now.
Because when I rode Clinton's, what did he have?
Was that hybrid thing he built?
Well, yeah, it wasn't a hybrid thing, but it was fully, non-squish. So it was hardtail with solid forks.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. It's a Pommy brand, and they only make steel frames.
Yeah.
But these are high-end steel frames.
High-end, lightweight steel tubing.
Yeah. So, might be and one. No. What am I thinking?
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Anyway.
He took the stickers off. It was just orange.
Yeah. Never mind. But I rode that a couple of times, and although it was, I would prefer having a shock in the front end.
Yeah.
The fact that he went super light, all he went for in that bike was lightness, to the point where he broke so many parts on there because everything was race spec sort of thing. So it was
it's
super
only designed
light.
to last one race.
Exactly. Minimal sort of races. Weight saving is more beneficial than longevity or strength sort of thing. As long as it's got enough strength to carry you through. So that's where my remorse lies. Is I was speaking to Sash one day, and Sash had pigeonholed me
Into the bold? No.
not into the bold, but just into more of a trail bike style. When I think that the geometry that we're going for, the slightly slacker head stem and shit like that, fork angle, was didn't outweigh for me, as in personal choice, the benefits of lightweight. Like, I appreciate lightweight more than I appreciate that geometry.
Yeah.
And I never achieved that level of sort of oneness that you have with your bike, the affinity that you achieve with that bike. So
it is an affinity, man. It likes to be ridden, and I like to ride it. And
you get enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I see you take off down the road, and I can tell that you enjoy being on that bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're having fun. You're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And getting that relief, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, yeah, look, riding, dude.
Well, that brings my next question. The next question on this topic is, what do you want to do with the riding? In terms of, like, I guess money is no object, but that's not the right phrase. Just with no inhibitions. What would you like to
honestly?
Because at the moment you're kind of maintenance riding.
That's exactly it.
You're just keeping your bum in the saddle.
Yeah.
But can you see something that you would like to maybe aim for to do?
Honestly, pre the current situation, I was genuinely in training for Coralban in June last year.
Yep.
But that got cancelled.
Yeah.
Pretty early on. But I was end of 2019 into the start of 2020. I was genuinely in training for the 4 hour.
Yep.
Which, because I thought I could do that easily.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was either the 2 or the 4. The 2 I knew I could do easy.
Yep.
Like I can do 2 hours in the saddle. That's not an issue for me.
Yep.
But I wanted to try and do 4.
Yep. Just to stretch yourself.
Just to stretch, and that's how come. That's where the stretching the marker has gone along the rail trail, right? So instead of just doing to the highway or whatever it was, I'm, you know, my average ride. I've been out of the saddle a little bit lately, but you know, my average ride's about 25k.
Yeah.
At 20 plus k's an hour, so it's not like I'm dawdling. I'm pushing for that 25k.
Yeah.
And I would still like to. Probably need to put a better shock on the front of the bowl. But I would like to take that bold into a hardtail endurance race. That's honestly, if the world doesn't continue to accelerate, spiral down the toilet, and
and those options are still open to you.
And those options are still open to me in the future. I would very much like to do that. I think that'd be a test.
Yep.
Because I'm good at testing myself.
Yep.
But I'd be interested to see, and I'd have no expectation. My only expectation, if I entered any of those things, would be to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as long as I got across the line with both wheels still on, I'd be happy. You know, but it'd be interesting to see. You know, because I mean, and I do Strava, and it's purely for my own data. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to share some of my Strava data into my posts and stuff, but I don't really do that anymore. But it's not. I'm still doing 100 plus k's a month. You know, on an average. You know, between 80 and 100 k's a month, and in the local area on the rail trail, I'm in the top 100. Yeah. For my age group and the weight level and whatever else I've said on Strava. Right. Yeah. So you know, it'd be interesting to see whether or not that'd translate. Because I'm not getting any younger, you know what I mean? I'd be in the veterans thing being.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I'd be interested to see how that translates. But again, it wouldn't be with any expectation. It'd just be to finish, you know what I mean? I mean, I've been trying to talk you into a long ride for years, you know, another one, you know. I'd love to do that. Yeah. I would actually love to, you know, I've got a bike pack that'll fit on the bike now. Yeah. I'd love to put that on and fuck off up the rail trail and just go to the end. Yeah. just because I've ridden it that much. You know what I mean? I may as well see what's at the other fucking end of it. You know what I mean?
100%.
And take a couple of days doing that. I would get just as much satisfaction out of doing that as I would doing a race.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's if I could do that, that'd be fucking awesome, man. You know, like that'd be a mission. You know, I'm trying to not use the word journey. I think we're gonna have to try and avoid that tonight.
An adventure.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, I mean, look, you know, we've got to tell the awesome listeners that we spent the weekend before last out at Sundown National Park, and that was an awesome.
Now that was a good adventure. That was
right? And
that was excellent.
And that's another culmination. We've been saying we want to go camping for years, and pushing through the elements, we went and we had
everything tried to stop us from going.
Yeah.
You know, weather and
everything,
societal change and stuff like that tried to stop us from going. But we regrouped, recalibrated, and re-engaged,
and we just pushed through.
Found another place, another time,
and it was perfect.
And it ended up being picture perfect.
Yeah,
I was 100% transported to a different world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Driving in there, and absolutely. I was actually really happy for all the rain that we got going in.
Yes,
because it was like going through a veil and then coming out the other side.
Yeah,
it was the perfect entrance.
And when we talk about rain, we had one whiteout scenario.
100%. I could not see the road.
Yeah,
I was following your tail lights and just trying not to hit you.
Yeah, well, I've got the fog light on the Pajero, so I pressed that. I'm like, that's at least going to give you something to fucking
100%
look at.
Yes,
but I couldn't see shit.
No, and so I was just watching your tail lights and making sure they didn't do this, because that would mean you ran off the road, sort of thing. So I was just following you, making sure your tail lights stayed smooth.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's all we can do.
That's all we can do, mate. I just backed right off.
Yeah. I think we ended up doing about 30 k's
an hour. It was full wide out
on the highway.
Yeah.
And then going into the park, there was that other rain event. That we had.
Yeah, coming up over the ridge, man. That was awesome.
Exactly. And then when we came out of that, the valley just cleared, and we hit that God's Country section up at the fuck table.
Yeah.
Dude, just out of nowhere, rolling into this fucking thing.
Just this paradise.
You come across this most amazing, so you're on top of a ridge, and the ridges are covered in these alpine cypress trees.
It's just beautiful, man.
I don't know what they're called, but that's the best I can describe them.
I haven't posted any pics, actually. I might do something with this episode, considering we're talking about it.
And then they open out, and in the distance, through the trees, you can see the tops of these hills, and they've got these round, grassy knolls on the tops of them. Beautiful. And you're like, fuck, they look cool over there. And then the trail leads you to them.
Yeah, I know.
And in the middle of one of them is a tree with a picnic table next to it.
Right there.
And it's looking basically probably north, up a valley sort of thing. It's spot. Wow, what a spot. I'm pretty sure the first thing I said was, that's where you'd fuck your missus. On that table. I was like, imagine that, just breathing the mountain air.
It so happened.
Oh, dude. Well, as we were coming out, there was people camped there.
Yeah.
Camped next to it, sort of thing.
Well, they were next to us, but the mullet brigade stopped them. But yeah, man. I mean, look, it couldn't have been, I got to, you got to go on your mission and try and get a fish. I took off up the ridge line, and we got space, man. We got peace.
Best part was going in. Once I sent a message to Robbo.
Yep.
On top of the hill, our last bastion of
reception. Yep. Yeah, everyone's walking around with their phones in the air.
Once I sent that message,
you could let go.
I put my phone underneath my fucking seat with my
never
wallet.
Touched it. Yeah.
And didn't look for it again until we were leaving.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want, I need all my gear to enter back into society.
Yeah.
And I'd put it under the seat and forgotten about it, so much so that I'm like, fuck, Jack, where's my phone? Can you ring it? Can you find it? I just happened to look under the seat and I found it and I pulled it out. It was flat because I left it on and hadn't even fucking looked at it. Just forgot about it.
Yeah. I think the only time I looked at mine is when I attached it to the drone.
Yep.
That's the only time I looked
Yep.
at mine.
And the best part was I didn't even think to look for it.
No.
Sort of thing. It was just
That disconnection, man.
yeah.
You know, and
it was total disconnection. It was fucking heaven.
Yeah.
And like the best way I can describe like the outlook from our camp, it looked to me like fucking, and this isn't in a derogatory way, it looked like deliverance country.
Yeah.
You know, you had these pretty steep hills coming down, large granite boulders and
Big
shit.
wide river.
And the river, because we were there in what some of the people described as they'd never seen the river run like that sort of thing. I don't know how much higher than it was than where it really is.
We don't know. Yeah,
we don't know.
We don't have that information.
Sort of thing, because the water was up in the trees sort of thing, and it was rushing. It was probably 50 metres wide, and we had rapids just up from us, so we had the...
And Woody only drifted about 15 metres when he tried to swim across it.
Yeah, look, that wasn't that bad. I was pretty happy. With it. It could have... If you had swum that sort of early the next morning after the water had come up even further,
a bit of a different story.
There was probably more flow there then. But it was like, you know, what I envisage as Colorado sort of thing. You know, that Colorado River kind of scenery sort of thing.
And
it was amazing.
Yeah, man. And you could,
imagine riding a push bike through that.
I know.
I
know.
Honestly, you couldn't ride one on that fucking trail.
No.
Like, that trail was perfect too.
Yeah.
It was...
challenging.
It was just enough to let you know you're off-road.
Yeah.
But your stock Pajero got in, not a problem.
Yeah, got in, got
We
out.
didn't have any issues. It wasn't bad enough that we had...
You know, there was no snatch
look,
straps.
I would have liked some recovery. I would have been
just
happy
to get the
with
toys
some
out.
recovery.
Just to get the toys out would be good, yeah.
But it wasn't to the level where anyone had to break anything or anything like that.
No.
So it was excellent.
But yeah, man, look, I think...
Oh, and let's not forget, what did we see? I think we saw 5 deer, and then I think Robbo saw 2 more when he came in.
Yeah, right.
So we came in and we saw our deer.
Yeah.
We got the whole feeling.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, because we were meant to go on a hunting trip.
Yeah, we were meant to go hunting, but it didn't
But that didn't eventuate.
But yeah, man, anyway, just adventure, dude. And I think I just wanted to show some appreciation because that, you know, you did put that one together and I helped push it through, and I could have spent another day there. I wasn't quite 100%. Done. I wasn't quite done. I could have spent another day.
If I had any remorse, we should have went on Thursday.
Yeah.
And let Jacob and Daniel come down.
Yeah, because I could have gone Thursday afternoon.
We all could have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, look, live and learn. However, anyway, dude, yeah, look, that's interesting. You started with cycling, mate. Where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to go?
The natural graduation, mate. I'm running you through your fucking hobbies, right? So our next thing is bow hunting, and you know, where you'd like to see yourself go with bow hunting. What would you like to do with that? Because part of what I'm doing right now, as part of this podcast, is I'm reinvigorating you, just reminding you of some of the other things, some of the things you've done, and you know, one of them you might fall into and invest yourself into, you know, and invigorate a passion sort of thing. Because cycling has been somewhat, like we said, you're kind of in the maintaining mode.
Yeah.
You're kind of just showing up.
Yeah.
So where could we go with that? And, you know, bow hunting, we haven't got to hunt yet.
No.
And hunting's a whole another element.
Yeah.
That we need to, like, spot and stalk hunting. We're fucking beginners. Like, we have no idea what we're doing.
No, we don't. No. But we can
But
pretend.
we can shoot a bow.
Yeah.
So we've mastered one of the tools
Yeah.
we need to have a successful hunt.
Yeah, look, I can.
But there's other parts of that whole activity.
Yeah.
That we could put more focus into, or you could put more focus into. So, yeah, where do you see yourself going with bow hunting? Where would you like to? No holds barred. Where would you like it to go without any time constraints or money constraints or anything like that?
I think it's.
What's your dream? What's your dream, fool?
Yeah, especially in. Look, I think it's becoming more and more obvious to me that it's could be a very important skill to have, to be able to hunt and stalk, kill and skin and deal with an animal. because the reality is I've got no fucking idea, right?
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of, like, I've seen people chop roos up. I've done some roo hunting in the NT. I've done some pig hunting in the NT. But in both those instances, I didn't handle the carcass.
No.
But that was not me, right?
Yeah.
And I think the disconnection, like, we talk about disconnection, you know what I mean? We went to nature to disconnect. And look, I needed that. We all needed that.
Yeah.
Like, we got super fucked up on Friday night. However, and I'm glad I wasn't the one spewing, but someone had to do it.
Someone had to do it.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to Big Lips for putting his hand up.
He put his hand up. He was drinking VB and rum. Of course it was going to happen, but
straight up. And he went hard. He went hard. He had some steam to let off, and he got it out.
Yeah, that's right. He wanted to find the line. He found it and crossed it.
But we've all been there.
Absolutely.
We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, it's like, you get to our age and it's like, when Dan passed out, we got him a pillow and a blanket, even though he was asleep outside. He's like, you boys didn't do anything. He's like, no, listen, man, we're getting old. We've all been that dude.
Done there.
We've already been there. We've all been that dude. We're going to look after you, man. Like, put you in the recovery position and poke you every now and again. You'll be right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when we talk about there's like disconnection from the matrix, and then there's disconnection. Modern society has given us a disconnection of where our food comes from. And we're heavily reliant on the global corporations that now supply our sustenance. And it's interesting. And because of because of Jackal's Hide coming up, and we both picked the bow back up to a point just to get our eye back in. So I was shooting more arrows, and I was contemplating killing an animal. Yeah. Right. And I'm not exactly comfortable with it, right? However, I don't think I should be, because it's another sentient being. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? And I'm not one of those people that aims for frogs on the road or any of that sort of shit. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna. We saved a couple of turtles, didn't we? We saved a couple of turtles on the way out to Sundown, which was the right thing to do. Yeah. One of those little bastards was lucky because he was just over the crest and I went straight over him. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But, so do I want to experience that, and do I want to eat the fresh meat and do that sort of stuff? Yes, I do. But I think if I've learned anything from the multiple podcasts with Cam Haynes and all the hunting stuff, and because I've delved down that rabbit hole to think about the mentality of it, I want to experience it for the spiritual sense of it almost, right? You know what I mean? Like I'd almost, when I was going to suggest to you if we did go hunting was like we should actually do a little ceremony and go, listen, we are here to experience this part of nature, whoever the animal is. Look, this is what the Indigenous used to do, right? They'd go, righto, we need meat, appeal to the animal spirits and go, if there's an animal at the end of its days and, it needs to move on, we would honour it for what it is, and I think I would like to do that and experience that. And it makes me nervous, and that kind of makes me want to do it more. Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it, and there's nothing worse than hunting with pleasure killers. It doesn't make you sport hunters. It doesn't give you a good feeling inside. And I don't know if I'd go as far, me personally, as doing like a pre-ceremony. I'm not. I'm not saying dance naked around the fire. I'd probably No. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it, and I like the sentiment of it. For me personally, though. You want to find it based off prior experience. I think for me, I wouldn't be any pre sort of stuff in terms of I just want to. I'm happy to hunt, and if I kill something, it's then just a gratitude. Yeah. It's a respect for the way in which you think when you're butchering the animal. Yeah. The way in your intention. Yeah.
You know,
I think that's what it is for me too. Is intention, like
100%. And you show that through, like, I'm almost a little bit against. I'm not against, but I think it's a little bit of virtue signaling, a little bit of pageantry. Like, I've got a few mates that are like, yeah, I want to eat fucking deer heart, you know, to fully respect the animal. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do that.
No.
By all means, I'd love to fucking eat some entrails, but from my point of view, from my level, I would be happy to respect the cuts I'm used to, the muscle. That's a level that you graduate to. Yeah, you know, nose to tail kind of stuff. You don't need to just be that from the get go.
It sort of seems
you can work.
I see. What
you're not
saying.
Disrespecting the animal by not fucking using absolutely but boiling the marrow and fucking rendering the fat and
the thing is too, man.
You know, it's like no, I'm respecting it. I skinned it and took the cuts
exactly, and as if the entrails won't be taken care of by the local carrion. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing 100%. Goes to waste.
Yeah, exactly.
No, look, that's interesting, man.
Yeah, so that's my perspective. That's where I sit. But
I would like to, and look,
where would you? I'm talking dreams. You're not going big enough. You need to go bigger. What would you like to do? What event? I'm talking like an event. Same as like cycling. What would you like to do? What would inspire you to hone your lacking skills? Like what would you like to do?
Look, I think it's a similar answer. Like if I was in, you know, we talked about clubs and stuff before we jumped on the mics.
Yeah,
we were already on the mics, but we hadn't officially started. Would I like to join an archery club and hone that skill? Because I mean, it's just been me and you in the backyard. You know what I mean? Like I can shoot. I can shoot.
Learning off Jordan Dudley.
That's right. I can shoot my bow proficiently. I can put it in the yellow from 30 meters. You know what I mean? Like that's I can do that now.
Yeah.
However, I know that I'm not doing it totally correctly. So I would like to have a consistent group of experienced archers to
some mentorship
to lean on and understand where I'm going wrong. And look, I'm not, you know, again, the sight on my bow is better than I'll ever be, and I have no idea how to use it. Right, I can adjust it so I can dial it in, I can walk the target in, that sort of stuff. However, for what that sight can do, I know it can do a lot more than I understand. Yeah, and I don't have that skill set. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I would like to look. I've found myself at times getting stuck down the competitive target shooting archery. Yeah. Like I'll get in a rabbit hole and I'll watch an hour and a half of, like, you know, all these different countries, men and women shooting the recurve bow and all that sort of stuff. Like that sort of competition does stir a little bit in me because it's just me. You know what I mean? It's me against whoever the other dude is.
It's an individual sport. Yeah, 100%.
You know? So
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he shoots.
No.
It's still it's like swimming. Doesn't matter what the other competitors do.
No.
You know your times prior to going into a swimming race.
Yeah,
you know how fast you can swim 100. You know how fast everyone else can swim 100. Like if you're at a professional level sort of thing. All that data's in front of you. All you know when you dive in is you either need to, if you're already the best, you just need to swim, you know, a PB.
Yeah.
And you're beating everyone as long as they don't swim better than their PBs.
Or how far can you push yourself on the day?
Yeah. Or are you so far in front that you now are not competing against anyone? You're purely competing against records, or you're competing against people who've come before you.
That's right. Yeah.
Who've set that record. So you've got an extra competitor in the pool. Or are you at the same level as everyone else? And all you know is, I have to get this so right that I have to do a PB to win or place or whatever.
And I suppose for me, in as far as archery goes, I've got no idea. Like I've had Woody over my shoulder a few times, and you know when that Saturday, whatever day, I pulled the bow out that afternoon, probably put about 50 shafts through.
Yeah.
And Woody's like hit that target, you know, on his cube.
Yeah.
And I could, within 2 arrows, I'm in that target. You know what I mean? So I know I can use my bow, but where am I on that scale? I've got no idea. Am I dog shit? Like, I don't know. I might be.
Yeah.
And that in a good club environment where it'd be welcoming and all that sort of stuff. Could I thrive and enjoy that? Maybe do a few target competitions? Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I'd like to maybe do like jackals, where we're not that far out of town, and get that first kill off my plate. Yeah, and I'd love to disappear into the fucking scrub, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's ultimately my dream. My dream trip would be the group of guys that went camping the other day, plus the couple that didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
If we were all at a level, this is my level, right, where we enter into jackals, and we do, let's say, like I said before, it was time and money wasn't a problem, wasn't a factor.
Mm.
So we go for 7 days,
Mm.
and we drive to a point, and we make a base camp, and then
we spread out from there.
I'll be like, see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Fucking, and off we go, out, and yeah, I'll take the gear I need, sort of thing, to make it overnight. I'll have food and stuff like that, and just go for as long as I feel.
Yeah,
and then come back to base camp, sort of thing. That might be one night, it might be 2 nights, depending on conditions. It's just conditions and country and stuff like that. If I'm just having a shit fucking time, I'll just be like, fuck this, I'm going back.
Look, you could do something easy like set up a radio call at 6 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't call in on the radio at 6 o'clock, then I'm in this direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
But yeah, look, because when you boys went fishing,
but I'm even down to the point where
just you're gone.
I kind of want to have the trust in everybody else and myself
That we can just go.
I don't need to hear from you tonight because I know you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Oh, look, I don't think that night. I think some point the next day, you know what I mean?
Just walk back into camp.
Yeah.
That's when we know you're good.
Yeah, I'll see you
and if you're not there by the end of the fucking 7 days, we got to come fucking find you.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, man. Like, look, I would love to be... Look,
if you break your ankle... If you break your fucking ankle, you're alone for 7 days, motherfucker.
There is something very, very tempting about that.
That's that. Like, yeah, exactly. 100%, man. It's an element of that that aloneness.
The best thing,
but not alone.
I loved having the boys. Our camp was awesome. The river was awesome. But the best thing for me, the trip at Sundowner, was when you boys went fishing.
Yep.
I strapped my belt on, put my knife on my belt, and and took off into the bush, man. And I was like, you boys were gone for 3 hours.
Yep.
I was gone for most of that time too.
Yep.
But I was alone in the scrub.
Yeah.
And I ventured all up along the ridge line, found a little creek bed, explored that, ran into a few animals, you know what I mean, found the animal trail, and man, like that for me was the best part of that trip.
Yeah, so imagine if that didn't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
If that didn't stop, and then
I'm in, yeah.
The sun started going down, and you're like, all right, probably should make fire, maybe fucking...
Yeah.
This is it. This is me. Yeah, this is what I'm doing.
I'd love to put a pack together and do that.
That's where my dream fucking lies, man.
I actually found a backpack that the bows quick draw off the side of the backpack. I'll show you that later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap, however, something to work towards.
Yeah.
Because then you can just sit your bow in the bag.
Yeah.
And basically all you do is you pull a string as you draw it, and it just comes out.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's a clip or something. Anyway, I'll show you later.
Cool.
But yeah, look, man, for sure.
Other than that, so that's the main things that are in your life right now. What's something I don't know about that's been sitting in the background that you on short notice? What else would you like to do? Again, no time, no money. If in a perfect time and place, Is there anything else like that's been lingering?
I miss playing with cars.
Yep. As in, like owning a car and mucking around on it.
Yeah, like I quite enjoyed prepping the Pajero. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like all my tools are set up for a mechanical workshop, and
Yep.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So having a tinkerer,
yeah, given
you
the
know,
time
not
and space,
not necessarily because I ain't no fucking resto man.
No.
You know what I mean? I ain't cutting rust and shit like
No.
that. But
Look, I can do. You know, like I always loved, and you know, a good friend of mine, Ian, still has one of my VR Commodores, Cherry. Right, I had a VR burgundy with the cream interior. It was a Bellina. He's put a manual in it since then.
Yep.
But it was auto when I had it, and he's still got it. And it's always been a dream of mine to buy that. And basically, the deal is we've got because it's a Wednesday car. That Commodore is good.
Yeah.
It's fast, it's stable, you work on it and it responds. It's a good car.
Yeah.
And that's the reason he's never sold it.
Yeah.
And the deal is that if he ever really wants to sell it, that I get first dibs, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
don't let him have it for too much longer.
No, they're gone.
Fucking
Oh, mate, I sold it to him for $800. I'm going to have to pay $5,000 now. But anyway, I would love to have that car back.
Yep.
Or another one.
Yep.
And because I can do suspension, I can do engine. I can't do electrics. I'll electrocute myself for sure. I can do most mechanical and suspension work.
Yep.
I can do a little bit of prep.
Would you get? Would you want a VR or newer, older?
No, VR, VS, man. I've got an affinity with those cars.
Yep.
I like the shape of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd keep a V6. I'd supercharge a V6.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put a Hollinger 5-speed or 6-speed in it. And you can actually get the IRS now because, you know, Aussies are Aussies, right? You basically key that IRS that used to be in the back of those Commodores wasn't that flash, but you can buy strengthened innards and stuff like that, so you still get the suspension geometry, which is good. However, you can upgrade it, you know, just a sleeper, man. Just something to, you know, on a sad day, if it's a nice day, chuck the girls in it, you know what I mean? Or, you know, chuck a few boys in it and just cruise. But more just have it and have the time and the resources just to tinker. You know, I'd buy full suspension kits, brake kits, braided lines, and I would take as long as it fucking took to figure it out. You know what I mean? I wouldn't. It wouldn't be about it's got to be on this timeline. I would just obviously probably need a bit bigger shed, but time and money's no object, is what we're talking about.
That's right. Time and money's no object, and because of that, it's not a daily driver. Yeah, it's a project car. It can be off the road for extended periods of time.
Yeah,
there's no stress.
No.
Yeah,
and that's, you know, prepping the Pajero, and I had to do a few little bits and pieces on that, and sort of getting to know it, and anytime I do that.
What's the cheapest Commodore at the moment?
They're all
like
going up, dude.
Six-cylinder Commodore.
They're all going up, man. Like I saw, because I look at VRs, right? There was one for
the last
3.5.
The last thing I kind of noticed was that back in my car wheeling and dealing days, $3,000 was the baseline for a registered car.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
If you either get the roadie with it, or the roadie is simple.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing for a roadie, and it's got 6 months or 12 months rego on it. $3,000 was the going price. It seems to be $5,000 now.
Seems to be about $5,000 now. Yeah. If you got a $3,000 Commodore, you're going to be working on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, look, I do miss having a mechanical toy to play with, because I do quite enjoy that.
Yeah. I hope VTs are the cheapest, because I liked VTs the most.
Yeah, but the original VT's dog shit. It's really bad.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I know nothing about Commodores, and I never owned one. I never looked into. Hang on.
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah,
before I met you, before we moved out here, we had a VT we called the White Wizard,
Yep.
And I think we got that for about $3,000.
Yep.
And within the first month, the window switch fell out and
Yeah.
the windows fell down and the coil pack went. And it was an interesting 6 months. You know, the early marriage. You know what I mean? Transitioning from being in, you know, to a teacher and, you know, resource issues, and it was a fun time. But that car was a piece of shit. I got sick when we had that car too, right? I think if I had been well, I probably could have fixed it very simply.
Yeah.
But because I was not well, I didn't have the cognitive ability to assess what the issue was. Like, I think about it now, it needed coil packs and it needed a couple of new relays, and I think that car would be fine.
Yeah, gotcha.
But in the state that I was in,
yeah.
But yeah, look, man, I do look. Money and time, no object.
I purely like the shape of the VT.
Yeah.
I know nothing about.
Yeah, no, the shape was
the engine, gearbox, driveline, suspension. I know nothing.
You want to do money and time, no object? There's actually, and I don't know if it's still for sale, but there's an LJ 4-door Tirana.
Yep.
Like the dark green metallic with the black. It was for $35,000.
Yep.
It needs a little bit of work.
Yep.
I didn't like the mags on it. I put different wheels on it. But if I had a toy like that I could polish and just tinker with, because it's got carbs and stuff, and like that's how I come up. I know about carburetors. I can adjust them. I can do all that sort of stuff. You know, timing and those sorts of things. I'm able to do all that.
Yeah.
That'd be fucking that. Yeah. To have a 70s Tirana.
Yep.
LJ preferably. My Tirana was a 4-door, so I got an Affinity with a 4-door.
Yep.
However, yeah, man, that'd be.
Yeah, see, if I was talking Holdens, I'd like a Kingswood.
The Kingswoods.
I'd like a 202 Kingswood.
Yeah, man. Yeah, HJ, HX, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Kingswood's a Kingswood to me.
Yeah.
I'd have a HZ.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They all look like Kingswoods to me.
Yeah.
It makes no difference. I just
beautiful car,
I just want a bench seat, front and back.
Yep. Column auto.
Yep. Column auto, 3-speed column auto.
Yep.
I think Trimatic or whatever it was.
Yeah, Traumatic, yep.
Traumatic with a 202.
Yeah.
But I want the 202. I want to open the bonnet, and that's my pride and joy.
Yeah.
I look at that, and it's got a fucking
chrome air cleaner on it,
red rocker cover with a chrome oil fucking cap and
extractors,
side draft fucking. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, man. And look, I think what's interesting too, though, is like we talk about this. You know, you talk about materialism. You know, I sort of had a bit of a thought while we're talking there. It's like, you know, we're talking pie in the sky sort of stuff. You know, if I had the resources, would I have it? Maybe. I think prior to the current situation, I wouldn't hesitate. But do I see the point in any of that sort of stuff now? And I think that's an interesting question. It's hard not to talk about the current situation, because I've made very calculated purchases the last 5 years. I haven't chased massive materialism, but I have got things that I thought were going to be useful. I think I know that materialistic things... See, it wouldn't be... And this is the thing, isn't it, right? So it's not winning the race that would satisfy me in cycling. It's the completing the race. It's the adventure. It's not killing the animal that is the goal for me learning how to hunt. It's the skill set and the adventure, right? Yep. And the same with the car. It wouldn't be this materialistic thing makes me happy. It would be the act of working on this and being part of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to show it. You wouldn't need to show it off.
No.
It's the sense of satisfaction would be alone in the shed.
Exactly. Yep.
And you pop the bonnet and you go, yeah. Or you sit in it, you take it for a cruise out the road and you're like, yeah. That's the moment. It's not about being in the public eye.
Well, that's why I stopped putting my riding on social media.
Yeah.
Because it was not...
Stop being about that.
Stop being about that, man. It's why I don't put, workout shit on social media either. I still work out, 3 or 4 times a week. Well, these days, because I just have to if I go mad. However, again, it's a personal thing, you know. So any of these things that we're talking about, materialistic, and understand that when I answer that, it's not, each of those things is not about the thing. It's about what the thing brings. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do miss having something mechanical to play with.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, this brings me to another question, which has stumped me for a while. And I don't understand how you wish to pursue hunting, but you don't want to fish.
All the big questions.
Because to me, it's
all the big questions here at Unlocking the Code.
To me, from my personal fucking perspective, they are the same thing.
Yeah.
Fishing is the easier version because fish don't squeal.
Yeah.
When you stick them, they can't make a noise.
Yeah.
They don't have eyelids. They don't have facial expressions.
Yeah, they don't look after their children.
That's right. Exactly. So they're easier to kill. They're easier to catch. Like fishing, you know, it's boating and fishing isn't the largest recreation in fucking southeast Queensland
for no reason.
Yeah.
Oh,
if fish could squeal like a pig,
fishing would be
people would not do it.
Yeah, if they looked after their children and stuff, people,
Well, some of them do. You got mouth brooders and nesters and stuff, so that's but you don't see it. It's not in plain sight. You'd have to go snorkeling to see that.
So fishing, okay. No one's actually ever asked me, and it's interesting you asked me on the podcast, because obviously you boys like fishing. I don't have a fishing rod or a reel or anything. If I had to, actually, in my survival kits, I've got a fucking line and a hook and a sinker. Yeah,
right. But that's only because it comes with.
That's only because it comes.
You wouldn't have purchased that stuff if you had to buy it independently.
No.
It comes in the kit.
You're asking a larger question. Look, obviously, you know, my granddad's initials KEP are on the bike because he was the original gravel grinder. And look, he had a trip to the Murray.
Yep.
Right, every year. And look, I had 16 cousins, right? And most of us, there's only 4 girls or 5 girls, so there's 11 boys, right?
Yep.
And you had to be deemed worthy to go on the trip. You didn't just get to go. You had to be of a certain maturity, and Granddad got to decide when you went. Now, that was a massive thing for me.
Yep. I hope to do this one day with my kids.
Yeah.
But I hope I don't scar them like you've been scarred.
Yeah. It was a massive thing.
Yeah.
And I think to be honest, and the thing is that no one's ever asked me that question directly, so I'm answering on the fly. However, the first big trip we went on, I was like 10. I think I was 10. And drove a car for the first time at 10 with Granddad, right? I said to him, I remember it was he had a panel van, Kingswood panel van, V8.
Nice.
And we just rode in the back out there. Like, there was no seatbelts or anything. Like, you know, sharp edges, steel in the back. He's just like, you boys sit in there and you'll be fine. Yeah. And we were.
We used to do the same thing because my old man had a troop carrier Landy, no seatbelts. But because it came out with no seatbelts, you don't need seatbelts.
No, you just bounce around the back.
You just sit in the back. Yeah.
So we did that. But he took us to... So carp were running wild back then. I mean, we're talking early 90s in Victoria.
Yep.
Okay, so carp were running wild back then. Big fucking problem, right? Yep. And Granddad held the record for the Murray cod in 1960-something.
Yep.
Right? For a couple of years, he held the record for Murray cod.
Yep.
That's how many times he'd go to the Murray. Yep. Right? I think the last trip he went, he was in his 80s. So he hated carp with a passion. Right, because they were killing the cod and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And we came across a estuary, like when the fire thing filled up, that, you know, where the water came in while we were out camping.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. But
full of fucking carp. Look, I mean, hundreds of them. Right, and it was me, my cousin Josh, and Nathan. Right.
Yeah.
And Granddad had actually, unbeknownst to us, cut 3 different lengths of Rio, specifically for us to kill carp, right? And being young and impressionable, and you know, and we went to fucking town. Like, we butchered, I don't even know how many of those carp.
Yeah.
And that whole trip, we actually had like a fish hospital where we'd gut these things and we'd look at the inside of them and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And after that, when I caught a fish that wasn't a carp,
Yeah.
I saw it as something different.
Mm.
And my granddad tried really hard with me in fishing. Like, he bought me many rods and hand reels and fucking all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But what's interesting is that you want to go crabbing? Let's go crabbing.
Yeah.
You want to go spearfishing underwater? You want to go snorkeling and diving? Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Right? I never vibed with holding a rod. Right? And I think as far as like being on the ocean is concerned, I've gotten seasick, or I get seasick.
Yep.
And I have done 2 or 3 times. And mind you, that 2 of the times I got seasick, experienced fishermen got seasick. Like, it was fucking rough. You know?
Yeah.
However, I have a respect for the ocean, I think, too. I grew up on Bells Beach in the summertime in Victoria. Granddad parked his caravan at Torquay, and we grew up on the back beach at Torquay. And I got my ass handed to me by the ocean many, many times, learning how to surf and boogie board and fucking, and like, you know, back then I just used to go by myself. You know what I mean? Like, no one was helping me.
Yeah.
And I think through that I got a healthy respect of the ocean.
Yep.
And it sounds weird, and I've got, you know, it's a little woo woo. However, you know, my star sign is a Pisces, and I've always sort of identified with the fish. And there's part of that I think I don't like eating them. That's the thing.
Fair enough. Well, that's probably, I would say that's a large percentage of the thing. If you don't like eating fish, then it's hard to get enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like, there's the sport fishing element, but I feel like sport fishing, for me, like, I enjoy sport fishing, catch and release, but that's like you riding the rail trail to Barallan and back. I do that to maintain my skills.
Yeah.
To let me know that I can still catch fish.
Yeah.
To feel the tug on the line,
Yeah.
to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
To know that I've got the muscle memory and the responses to hook the fish, to fight the fish, that kind of thing. I sport fish when I'm not fishing for food.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah. And I suppose for me, I never got that the thrill that I watch you boys get out of catching a fish. It never really grabbed me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just didn't. It's not something that,
Yeah.
like,
I just want to say to you before we go any further, killing those carp wasn't fishing.
No, I know.
That's every time I catch a fish, it's as though I'm killing it. Whether I'm sport fishing or killing it, it's the same thing for me as killing an animal.
Yeah.
If
there's a respect there.
If I'm letting it go, I boat it or net it or land it the best way possible.
Yep. You honour that.
I have it
animal
out of the water as little as possible. I try and damage it as little as possible, and then I return it.
Yeah.
Or if I'm keeping it, I go with a target species.
Yep.
I don't just discriminately
fish for it.
fish,
whatever.
because I did that when I was younger. And many times I was disappointed in myself because you're like, I'm going to go catch a feed, right? And then you may keep the first fish you get that is legal size. Then nothing else, you don't get anything else.
Yeah.
So now you're stuck with a lot of work.
For the same fish.
A lot of work without the reward. You're not getting a feed. You know, you got to scale and fillet and gut and everything. And I found I didn't have the same respect because it became drudgery at that point, because it's like, now I've got to clean it because I've killed it.
Yeah.
So I've got to clean it. I've got to eat it.
Yeah.
It became a necessity.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, with experience, I've learnt I'll go with a target species in mind of what I want to catch.
Yeah.
And if I start catching those, I'll actually keep them alive until I'm up to a quota where it's worthwhile killing them.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, then it becomes process. It becomes the respect sort of thing. You've respected them up until this point because you've done all the other stuff in terms of not damaging them. If you're going to release them, because I've got a live bait tank, like a live tank in my thing. If I'm going to release them, I'm going to release them healthy enough to go back and survive.
Yeah.
If I'm not, that's when the ceremony begins, sort of thing. And it's not a physical out of body ceremony where I do anything in particular. It's my thoughts as I kill the fish, clean the fish, and prepare them, basically.
Yeah, look, and the thing is, don't get me wrong, have I had some fish prepared for me that was fucking delicious? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I really have. Over the years.
Yeah.
And like, I actually had a Filipino fish soup rice dish in Papua New Guinea. That was delicious.
Yep.
Right? And those boys just knew how to do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they'd caught the fish on the other side of the island. And they'd done their process. So I can respect that. However, and I respect it, man. I it's just that, yeah, I don't know. It's not me.
Yeah.
And I think the other.
Well, here's my.
You want a pie in the sky thing that I'd love to do that you probably don't know about?
Yeah.
I want to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Right, and see, and my thoughts with water is that it's for flying over.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
See, I've got a opposite, not opposite, but an alternate perspective to you, in terms of having done the ocean thing the same. It's basically the same as what you were talking about, but I was in a different location. So obviously, a different location provides different circumstances. Where Bells is brings like swell off the Southern Ocean and shit like
Sharks
that.
and
It's
shit, man.
it's a wilder piece of ocean. Whereas I was in Noosa, possibly the fucking calmest piece of ocean in all of Australia.
Yeah.
And not only that, the ocean is, you then are in a bay.
Yeah.
So my experience with the ocean is a lot gentler in a way.
Oh, my ocean learnings were not gentle.
Oh, and at times neither were mine. Like,
Yeah, we've discussed a few of those,
ferocity.
yeah.
Ferocity is ferocity.
Yeah.
And as a mortal piece of flesh, you realise the force of nature at times. When you're dealing with it. So no, I've come headlong with it, but I think what I'm getting at is, more often than not, being in a very calm piece of the country, I had more positive experiences with being on the ocean. Yeah, like, basically, there was a point in my life where I lived around the ocean because I lived in Noosa. It's a massive tourist spot, massive cost. Everything costs a lot. And as a local, you learn how to sort of avoid those costs. Yeah. And I was able to I had surfboards for when the surf was pumping. I had scuba gear. Well, not scuba gear, snorkeling gear, which everything I bought was one-off cost stuff, except for one thing. But so I had I had fishing gear. Yeah. I had snorkeling gear. I had surfing gear. Yeah. And the one other thing that I ended up not having to pay for, but initially, I guess it was kind of a one-off cost thing, but the business model was different, was when I was a kid, randomly, I used to do sailing as a kid, sort of thing. So I was about 11, 12. One of my best mates at the time, he was like, "Oh, you want to do sailing?" sort of thing. Mum's going to put me in sailing. And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So we used to go, I think it was Saturday mornings, used to go to the yacht club and they had a junior program and we used to sail up and down the river.
Yeah, right. See, I mean, if I had something like that, that'd give me an affinity with boats. You know what I mean? You develop that connection with the water and the wind and the sail, and there's a whole, I can see, like, I've never been on a sailboat.
Yeah.
Would I like to go on a sailboat? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On a lake or something like that. Absolutely. I think.
Well, I will terrify the absolute shit out of you. Fucking Leash never ever wants to come sailing with me again. Remember when I used to own the catamaran?
Yeah.
I bought that catamaran. I used to take her out to Wivenhoe, and I sailed. Like, I ended up getting into. It doesn't make much difference, but so progressed into like lasers, which are they're like a competitive.
That was
style
pretty
of like
aggressive. That was pretty
dinghy.
aggressive. That thing you had. That was pretty.
Yeah. Well, the cat that I had was one step below having a trapeze, which is where the second person fucking hangs out the side on a harness to keep it down in the water. It was one step below that. Yeah. So the next model up, because I had the 14 foot, the 16 foot has a trapeze.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically where I progressed to in sailing. I was in cats and dinghies, but the dinghies I was sailing were like skiffs. So, did you ever watch 18-foot skiff racing? Remember in the 90s when Sydney Harbour they used to televise that shit?
Yeah. I used to watch that. Yeah.
So I didn't race 18-foot skiffs, but we raced 14-foot. I can't remember what they were, but they're basically like a miniature version, and they're not as edgy as an 18-foot. They're a little bit more forgiving. Anyway, so we progressed up to that. So I take my wife out on Wivenhoe, and
put this thing up on 45 degrees.
A few times we sailed to the conditions, not to my experience level, sort of thing. So basically, because this is one of the things where my experience level outweighed the boat that I had.
Yeah.
Normally that doesn't happen. Normally, like the bikes and shit, the bikes are way better than
us. Yeah.
Well, I'd say a way better craft than what I owned because I fucking had to buy this cheap fucking thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a few times I fucking capsized it and threw her off the boat, sort of thing, and she was expecting a leisurely stroll down the dam.
Romantic.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I'm like, jib on, get over the side. Hike. And I'm hanging out over the side. My fucking back's in the water. Because that's how we used to sail. We got taught competitive sailing, sort of thing.
So you're
we
trying
raced.
to get the most out of this.
We always raced. We couldn't help it. We were young
So your
kids.
wife's expecting a romantic,
She's
leisurely,
expecting to sit on a horizontal deck
and just
and
lays around,
look deeply into my eyes and shit. And then next minute I'm yelling commands at her to fucking jib on, jib on, and get your ass over the fucking hike out. Starboard! Yeah, I'm yelling commands, and I snapped the stays multiple. There was one time she'd warned me so many times. She's like, "You need to stop doing this shit because I don't enjoy it." And then we went out on the dam one day, and she's like, "We shouldn't go." I'm like, "It's fucking 25 knots at best, honey. It's fine, 25 knots is a stiff breeze, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's probably blowing fucking 30.
Yeah,
It was decent. It was decent wind, and I snapped the stays on it because I had fucking all the sheets were locked off, and we were fucking. I can't even remember what the fucking term is now. Broad reach. We're fucking broad reaching, and this cat. I'm fucking sitting on the. And I'm going into terminology now, and I'm not explaining anything.
I've got no idea what you're talking
Broad
about.
reach is the fastest fucking section of the wind, angle of the wind you can put a boat on that doesn't have like spinnakers, sort of thing. Because if you put a spinnaker, you can go directly downwind, sort of thing. And where my boat doesn't have that, so I'm using the mainsail as a fucking spinnaker. And the best angle, from what I've been taught, is a broad reach. That's about as fast as you can get it. Now the problem with a fucking catamaran is the far pontoon gets fucking the nose
into
of it
the
gets
water,
pushed into the water
Yeah.
because that's where all the force is
All the
going.
weight's going, yeah.
So my ass is sitting basically on the fucking rudder. I'm out the back of this boat. I've got this thing fucking hauling ass, and fucking boom, off goes the stays. Mast falls over. Fucking boat goes fucking purling, man. Purling is what we call when you just fucking nosedive. It goes ass over tit. I right the boat. The wife's just like, that's it. I'm not fucking...
Not doing this
not
anymore.
doing this.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to get this thing into shore. She's like, no, I'm fucking doing nothing. It's on you.
Yeah.
So here I am, fucking sculling in the water, rolling the mast up, fucking, and the boom, tucking all the sail up and everything onto the deck. She's sunbaking on the deck. She's reneging at this point in time. She's like, no. I then had to swim because, okay, there's a piece of wire that joins the front two pontoons together. That's where my jib connects to. So I've got my feet hanging on that piece of wire and I'm fucking freestyling.
Trying to pull the boat in.
I probably had to swim about 800 meters to get across to the shore. And then I had to walk back to where the car was 3Ks. Like fucking just dragging it along the shoreline of Wivenhoe all the way back because we're out of Logan's. I don't know if you've ever been into Logan's Inlet. That's
I've driven over through that. I know.
Yeah, so there's a boat ramp over there.
Yeah.
So that's where I put in, and it's like an arm, a small arm. So I've sailed right out of that into the main body of the dam.
Yeah.
When I'm fucking
everything went pear shaped.
When I'm hauling.
So was that the last trip that you took your wife on a
Yeah, after that I pulled the sail off. I turned it into a bass boat because she wasn't coming with me anymore. So I was like, fuck it. So I built a plywood deck and I put an electric motor on it. Yeah. It was sick. It was awesome. I took it out the river a few times, sort of thing, and then put it back together and sold it because I just wasn't using it anymore. But yeah, so sailing for me, that's one thing I'd like to do again.
Yeah, man.
But sorry, we've gone so far down the tangent.
We have.
So I had that. So those skills that I had, that group of skills, I could live off the ocean.
Yeah. Translate into that
and just use it as my fun. It was my escape.
Yeah.
So if the waves were up, I'd go surfing. If the waves were flat, I'd go snorkeling. Intermittently, in between that, I'd also be going fishing if there was no waves, and if it was windy, I'd go sailing.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, you got to remember, I only went to the ocean during summer.
Yeah.
Right. So I grew up in central Victoria.
Yeah.
So I spent my time on the river.
Yeah.
Right?
See, my daily occurrence, whether it was
I was in the bush, and I was on the creek, and the creek back then. I mean, you talk about fishing. The thing for me about if I wanted to go and get a fish to eat, there was a couple of spots on the Yarrawee Creek when I was growing up that the rocks were that shallow that these beautiful rainbow trout would just sit in the shallows and catch whatever was coming along, right?
Yeah.
And if I wanted a fish to eat, and I did eat a few of those as a kid, we just knocked one on the head with a rock. Honestly, that was what we would do.
Yeah.
Like the one that was closest to the bank, that was, that's your problem, mate. You know? And so this whole using a rod and all this sort of stuff, like...
Doesn't make sense.
That when I grew up, and, you know, and I suppose I'm I'm a freshwater fish, not a saltwater fish. You know what I mean? I'd much prefer to be in a lake. I'd much prefer to be in a river.
Yeah.
Like that's why Sundown, I love that, man.
Yeah.
You know what
See,
I mean?
I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah, and
most of all of my stuff. Now, this is another point that I didn't get to. Still don't like ocean fishing, and I've analysed why. It's for me, ocean fishing is very technological.
Yeah,
it's all charts, chart plotters, and sounders, big boats. There's a bit of nous. There's a certain skill set you need, but you're lost without technology. Yeah, you're sort of just floating around in the ocean. Exactly. You're completely lost without fucking technology. Whereas I prefer estuary fishing than going out in the ocean. I've done it plenty of times. I don't get seasick. I used to drive my tinny. We used to go out offshore all the time, offshore fishing. Had some cool like boating experiences, like off Noosa, where you're surrounded by a massive pot of dolphins. I wouldn't even estimate the number.
Yeah,
maybe.
And that's the thing.
Maybe
You had. It sounds like you had a lot of.
I had a lot of surreal experiences,
beautiful
man. A lot of
experiences,
positive, surreal experiences.
Do you know? And I
had whales, humpback whales. I had fucking dolphins,
and
turtles.
Yeah, right.
Like snorkeling with turtles.
I've done a fair bit of snorkeling. Yeah,
Yep.
we used to do snorkeling off
we when it was really calm, when there was absolutely no surf, one of the things we used to do was drive the tinnies out and fish all of the points where we'd surf.
Yeah,
sort of
right.
thing. So we'd fish them. We'd get bored with that. We'd go out around the national park. We'd fucking snorkel. We'd catch crayfish because there's lobsters out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
the thing is, I suppose if you grow up developing those skill sets, it becomes second nature, right? Whereas for me, disappearing into the scrub, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you've done more than that than your ocean dwelling sort
and
of
I think,
experience.
and the other thing about boats for me too is that my uncle was, he raced boats, like the Ski 80.
Yep.
So my first experience to a proper outboard, boat was 160 twin 160s on the back of a thing that it'd stand on its head. You know what I mean?
It's a different world.
It's a different world. He ended up having it was Pete's Dragon and Fig Jam. I mean, those things had blown 350 Chevs in them. You know what I mean? Like, I used to get towed behind a ski boat.
Yeah.
Right?
Boat racing.
A
completely different world.
And that was literally, apart from Granddad's tinny with a 15 horse on the back that we'd putt around on the river, which I nearly capsized more than once.
Yeah.
That was my experience with boats, like snarling V8s. Like, what? You know what I mean? So it's like, when you've experienced that, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, and again, I spent more time, much more time, my entire adult life and my childhood in fresh water than I did in seawater.
Yep.
But yeah, look, I respect fishing. And am I happy to come for the mission? Yeah, I'm happy to come for the mission. I really respect casting. Like, I was really enjoying. Thing for me is like sitting on that stump, chatting to you, watching you ply your trade. Was very fascinating to me. And I did sort of want to have a go.
So funny from that, because I was kind of explaining to you what I was doing at the same time. Do you see how that to me translates directly to hunting in terms of I was casting into a current, and the current would
absolutely
would
the
then
way you were
present
making
the bait
it,
into a
the
certain
way
area.
you were making it swing around and come back in, man.
So
it was very, very
when
interesting.
when I'm looking at that water and looking at those currents, I'm seeing air.
Yep.
I'm seeing air currents.
And
that translates directly to me sitting in a spot in a larger scale. So instead of thinking I'm going to cast a lure here, and then my lure was coming across and then presenting in front of those snags, I'm then translating that into hunting, and I'm saying, instead of casting the lure, I have to cast myself, because I'm now the bait. Except I'm not the bait, I'm just the thing.
I think for me, as far as like the comparison is that I spent my entire childhood and even when I used to go and take photos in Western Australia and going into Arnhem Land, I would actually try and sneak up on animals. Yeah. Like, I've done a lot of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's some photos I've got of kangaroos that people don't understand how good the shot is, because I've actually walked up on, like, there's one shot I've got of the two kangaroos. I might have showed it to you. And I stalked those guys, and I got up within bow shot. Yep. Easy now, like looking at it through a different lens. And I've done that multiple times, and I would like to take that skill set and apply it to like a deer, which is a different animal again. Yeah. And yeah, that's a skill set that I've developed over many years. Yeah. You know, so, and like I did the same at Sundown. Yeah. Right? I ran into a couple of families of rock wallabies, and I wasn't I was sort of intentionally being quiet, but I wasn't intentionally being quiet.
Yeah.
But I was keeping an eye out, you know, and when I identify a little pod of rock wallabies, I would see how close I could get to it before they jump away.
Yeah.
You know, and I've done that a lot. Like, you know, I remember, you know, so like as when I was a kid, my mate's brother used to babysit us, right?
Yeah.
He was like 8 years older than us, so we're like 7 and he's 15.
Yeah.
And I had a digital watch. He's like, "Do you know how to read that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Right, your mum's picking you up at 5 o'clock. If you're not back at 4:45, I'm coming looking for you." And like he's, you know, he's probably banging his missus in the bedroom. Yeah. You know what I mean? He had his girlfriend over.
Yeah, 100%.
He didn't need me and my mate to annoy him.
Yeah. And
at 7, we would disappear into the bush for 3 hours at a time. We had a full hut set up and, you know, cubby house and, you know, everything, man. Like it was a full setup. So that's something that I've done a lot of.
Yep.
That I feel confident walking into the bush.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the idea of you saying, "Here's base camp, I'll see you in 3 days." As soon as you said that, I'm like, what do I need to do that? I can do that. What do I need?
It's a good idea, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
how good is that as an idea?
Yeah. And look, the gear's that amazing now that you could get away with it, you know, with not that much expense. And I thought, I could do that. Easy. You know, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. You know, or the next day, maybe, you know, and I wouldn't be worried. Like, it's all like Woody. I wouldn't be worried if Woody wandered off, right? Well, he wandered off a few times at Sundowner, right? But you know, I wouldn't be worried if you wandered off, and you shouldn't be worried if I wander off. Yeah. And I think I never had that affinity with the fishing, whereas I have had that with animals in the bush. Yeah. And that's a skill set I'd like to translate. Yeah.
Is there any other skill sets that you could think of you'd like to sort of add, any other hobbies or skill sets that you'd like to add to your bushcraft? Because for me, I would like to do, and this sort of comes back to, I'm bringing everything back to clubs and groups and instructional sort of things and classes and stuff like that. I'd like to do a knife making class. Yeah. Sort of thing to add to that sort of skill set.
Yeah, I think some of the like it's interesting when we came up, you talk about clubs and stuff. It's interesting how the baseline skill levels that I learned in the Cubs and the Scouts. Yeah. That look, back then it was the proper Cubs and the proper Scouts. Like, you know, at 7 or 8 or 9, we would go camping and we would learn how to make a fire the old way. We'd learn how to, you know, make spears and do all that sort of stuff, you know, and that skill set still translates. But it's come so far now, though. Like, I would like to, I'd love to learn how to make a blade. I love it. You know, blacksmithing, I have an affinity. You know, everyone has their affinities, right? So I'm mechanical, not electrical, right? I'm also metal, not wood. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can work with metal. I can weld. I can build stuff with metal. You want me to build you something out of wood? Excuse me. It's not going to be great. But you give me the same stuff out of metal and you give me a certain amount of time and it'll be nice. Yeah. You know, so the idea of like silversmithing, you know what I mean? I do like men's rings, and I think that it's gone, that style is gone, and there's a way to make them that'd be really cool and stuff like that. Yeah. I could find myself getting into that. But yeah, look, the fact that there's not a forge out there is only really, I've had other focuses. Yeah. I've definitely looked into it. I've definitely looked at boxes of files on Facebook and gone, oh, that's not that expensive. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
well, if you ever feel the need, I've got 30 farrier rasps sitting over there that are on good information from the branding and the Google search that they're 1095 high carbon steel.
Really nice.
Yeah. A little bit difficult to work in terms of high carbon steels sort of thing. It would be better if it was like 1084 or something like that. But 1095 is basically the best quality. Yeah. sort of thing.
Well, I'd be very
It's
interested.
a little bit finicky in the quenching process.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You got to have your oil temperatures correct, and you got to soak them afterwards and shit like
Oh, look,
that.
I think there was a time in.
But I have materials.
Yeah, cool. There was a time in my eBay searches and Facebook marketplacing and stuff where there was a heap of forges saved and all that sort of stuff. Like blacksmithing, the idea of working with metal and making a blade and look, that really, there's something along with the, like, to me, to go back to the bow hunting, learning how to shoot the bow has been an amazing process. You talk about, I tell you what, Robbo's bow's nice. You know what I mean? He's got the next step up from both of ours. That was a really nice bow. You know what I mean? I looked at that and went, oh, that's the next level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'd keep my sight because that sight's really good, but would I like to step the bow up? Yeah, I would.
I didn't like his bow. I thought it looked small. Axle to axle, it looked shorter.
It
than
was
mine.
very fat. Yeah, it was like short and stocky, but I liked it.
And I also, I'm waiting for you guys to all have issues because you've all got dual cam bows.
Yeah.
And no one's taken them like back sort of to get tuned.
I've taken mine back.
Yeah.
I've taken mine back twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was wrong.
And it probably needs
it
needs another one now. It's making an interesting twang.
Because that's the one thing that I think of in terms. That's the one thing I pat myself on the back for.
Yeah, you've only got that single.
I've got a single cam bow, so they can't get out of sync. So it's a lot less maintenance.
Yeah, right.
Sort of thing in terms of that.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I'm like. For me, like not being a person who is going to take their bow back to the shop very often, sort of thing.
I got finicky, man. Like,
that.
I think for me, I've been learning how to put an arrow and, play with the wind, and that has been a very, very cool thing. And again, like the bold, shooting a bow and riding a mountain bike, I don't see a time when I won't do either of those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would you get a trad bow? Like a traditional, like a stick bow or a recurve or something?
Look, if I was brave enough, I'd string that one.
Yep.
But I'm not that one.
Yeah.
But would I like to learn how to shoot a recurve?
Yep.
Like I said, if I joined a club, I'd learn how to shoot my compound correctly for hunting purposes.
Yep.
But I probably would end up with a recurve and do target.
Yep.
Because I really enjoy watching the recurve competitions more than the compound competitions. I think there's something a bit more pure about that as far as the archery is concerned and the shooting is concerned. But I think man, look, this has been fun. I really need to piss. I know I want to keep going, but I really need to urinate. So why don't we leave this section? And thank you for asking me those questions, man. Like
that's all right, man.
That's been very interesting. I'm interested to see. You went a completely different direction than I thought you would go, and I'm interested to see what.
I somewhat knew that. I knew I'd hit you with the simplicity.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, what questions you've got to finish off. But let's take a minute so we can rehydrate and urinate.
Well, we're gonna probably delete all this, so stop talking. Let's just go. So where were we at?
Yeah, we're back, man. Look.
Where were we at?
I would like to see what questions you've got for me.
I'm formulating them as we go. That's why I need a recap. Where were we?
Well, we
lost my train of thought.
We just finished talking about sort of hunting, fishing, cycling, where we want to go. You asked me a couple of pie in the sky questions, and look, I really appreciate that, because for the loyal listeners that will download this, that's a lot of information and probably a version of me that they haven't heard, man. So I really really appreciate that, and I always appreciate your stories. And tipping Alicia off a catamaran is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, look, it's been an interesting. See, I thought, and that I thought you were going to go down. What have I learned? Knowledge, megalithics, blah blah blah. So
That made up a large proportion of the podcast, but
yeah,
there was another section of the podcast.
there was,
that,
man.
That
There
we,
was,
we
dude.
had sort of left in the dust there at one point. Sort
Well,
of thing.
it
And I
must be
wanted
said,
to-
I don't take social media posts of pre-podcasts anymore. I don't know why I don't do that. I mean, look, no one really liked them, so what was the point?
Yeah.
But I am wearing the second iteration of the Feeling is Healing shirt, the rainbow tie-dye shirt that, I didn't really promote, or I actually ended up giving them all away. Well, there's still some in the cupboard, but I ended up giving most of them away.
Yeah. I've still got mine.
Yeah.
Both of mine.
Both of mine, yeah. I couldn't find the original. I don't know
Yep.
where that is, but it's around somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a portion of the podcast that we just sort of left it behind. We kept talking about spirituality and consciousness and mental health and that sort of stuff. However, it wasn't. We sort of went megalithic focus and stuff like that. And if I'm to sort of prompt a bit of a conversation, it's like when I put this shirt on tonight, it sort of has a bit of a different meaning now. It's rainbow tie-dye. The stitching is purple on the front. It says Feeling is Healing. And that came from a Matty Noonan podcast years ago. I can't even remember which one it is. It was one of the first Matty Noonan podcasts. And
I feel like it was the first or the second one.
I think it was, yeah. And it's taken on a whole new meaning, and I think...
Flesh that out for us. Sort of analyse how you're feeling.
Yeah, well, when you talk about... I suppose what I realised... You asking me those questions out of the blue, and congratulations, good job on that. And analysing how I felt about each of those topics, what I realised, and again, it's the J word. It's the dreaded J word. You know what I mean? It's the journey. It's not the destination.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And don't you think the reflection upon that journey kind of ties back into our last episode, the triptych?
Yeah, the God self, man.
Because it was about the self.
Yeah, dude.
It was about balancing the two opposites.
Yeah, man. That's what this whole thing was about.
And finding the self.
Feeling is healing, and that was that meaning behind that is both negative and positive, right? And it was about achieving that balance, And I think, I really, and look, this, but I really try and fucking practice what I preach, man. You know what I mean? Like, if you talk to me off the mic, it's pretty much exactly the same as it is on the mic, Yeah. And I have made a concerted effort over the last 5 years, up and down, as life is, however, to really practice what I preach. And I've been a teacher during that time as well, so I've taught that as well as practicing it, and I literally have been preaching it. And that journey has been, there's no other word. We need to get a thesaurus. That journey that
just
I've been on.
embrace it. It's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey, right? The journey that I've been on with the Feeling is Healing, and trying to embrace the God self, and it, when you ask me those questions, it's like, no hole, no money, no thing, and it's like, whilst resources are good, money is not evil. It's not everything. I think, like I said, if we talk about, even if, let's go total pie in the sky, like I said, one of the things you might know about me is I really like to be a pilot. I've had an affinity with planes since I was a very little boy.
Yep.
If I hadn't have fucked my knees as a teenager, I would have gone into the Air Force and tried to be a pilot.
Yep.
Okay, that was my path until I fucked my knees. And even that, it's not about the materialistic of owning a plane or anything else like that. It's about having the ability to fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what
the funny thing is, and I've thought about this fairly recently, because it's strange where your brain takes you as a parent. I plan out my boys' lives fucking multiple times a week.
Yeah.
I project through a lifespan and what I know of them now, I try and forecast
What they'll be.
off their personalities. Well, not what they'll be, just possibilities.
Yeah.
It's like running a model on a computer. I just run the model and I see where my mind would take me, different experiences, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling apprehensive. Like I had the thought about boys being, maybe one of them being a pilot.
Yeah.
And I felt apprehensive about it, Crashing out of the sky is fairly fucking scary.
Yeah.
But then I was like, percentage-wise, the aviation industry is the safest form of travel.
Yeah.
Out of fucking everything we do day to day.
Yeah.
I've owned motorcycles and rode them on the fucking road.
Yeah.
We all drive cars and trucks daily.
Yeah.
And more people die doing that shit than doing the other stuff.
Yeah.
And even when you take into the fact that less people fly than they do drive, etc., it's just a different world in terms of down to the fuel they use.
Yeah.
Like
the checks and balances, man.
Avgas is Avgas for a reason, not because it's better than anything else. It's because it's
aviation gasoline.
It's set to a standard and it sticks to it. Because if you get a water in the fuel down here at the fucking Freedom, your car splutters and carries. You can't have that in a plane.
No.
You can't have that. You need a fucking standard sort of thing. Mechanics is done to that standard, whereas you get car mechanics, you get fucking Bob down the road who'll do it in his driveway for fucking $50.
That's right.
And if times call for it, you'll go for that. But if you're flying a plane, it's done to a level.
See, the part of learning how to fly for me, that I like that, right? So I've had the privilege of going up in a fair few light aircraft and got the chance to fly a Cirrus SR-20 with a friend of mine, Steve, a few years ago, and that whole checks and balances thing, that I like that. You know what I mean? It's like that process.
Yeah.
You've got to go from the tip of the plane to the tail of the plane, and you've got to check and balance everything. Yeah, all the control surfaces right. And to me, everything good.
To me, it's a bit like the comparison would be the redneck envisage, like the perspective of like redneck hunting. So that perspective compared to spot and stalk hunting, it's almost the
differences in the engagement and professionalism.
I think about the way in which, like we pig hunt, right? The majority of people pig hunt is you race in. It's a spoon.
Yeah.
It's a spoon. You race in. You scoop up. It's
pretty brutal.
It's fast. It's fast utes and spotlights, and it's moving quickly. It's fast paced. Whereas bow hunting, spot and stalk is the opposite.
Yeah.
It's slow, it's steady, it's calculated.
It's methodical.
And if you translate that over to transport, car transport is like the redneck hunting of the transport world.
Oh, I'm surprised how people get some of their licenses, to be perfectly honest. But
dude.
Don't even get started.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But how does that... So, to flip the tables a little bit, how does that translate to you for self? You know what I mean? Like, like how does that... when we come back to, it seems to be, no matter what we talk about tonight, through the things that we've learned here, it's more about the process than it is about the destination, because we both understand now, through the knowledge that we've gained in this room, that that's what it is about. You know what I mean?
Well, once you get to the destination, you don't learn anything more.
Yeah.
It's about learning. Learning in multifaceted different areas in your life.
Yeah.
In different sized increments. It could be the tiniest, most insignificant increment in one thing, but every day compared to large chunks over large periods of time in another field, It's just that learning that keeps the grey matter ticking, and learning things is satisfactory.
Yeah.
Like it fills the cup. It works on the self.
Yeah.
Because not only are learning about like skills or something like that, but you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting back to here is the self. You learn about yourself. You ride that bike.
Yeah.
And you learn.
Oh, you learn.
You know,
Ooh,
it's the best psychology course is to do any endurance physical thing.
Yeah.
Well, any kind of physical thing.
Yeah.
Because you've only got yourself. You're inside your own head, and you are fucking talking back, and you are having a non-stop conversation back and forth with yourself.
Absolutely.
The whole time.
Yeah.
You know, there's messages coming up from your legs. Fuck, I'm burning. Geez, I'd like a rest.
Yeah.
Then there's psychological thoughts going back and forward. It's like
you don't have to cross the highway, mate. You can turn around.
Yeah.
You can turn around at the highway if you wanted to.
And that's
because you've done pretty well. No one else really rides the highway, do they?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You know?
And that's your brain testing you based on the analytics that are coming in. So the blood oxygen levels, because it's like a car, right? You're a motor. You're constantly surveying the motor of, you're watching the gauges. You're testing the fucking lactate levels.
Oh, mate, if I ride in the morning, I'm much more proficient and efficient, and I can get more kilometres done without less effort. Whereas if I deal with my day and I try and get a ride in the afternoon, I don't have that same level of energy. Like you say, lactate, oxygen levels, mental capacity. You know, because I've already burnt through the day.
And the mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Because you've burnt your matches with your patience and your strength throughout the day.
Yeah.
So when you ride in the afternoon, you're weaker, not only physically but mentally, because you've already been tested by menial things throughout the day.
Yes, menial things.
So whereas if you attack the day with that challenge, you're actually using up that quota on something that's worthwhile instead of the menial stuff.
And I tell you what, if it's one of that you talk about lessons, you want to talk about learnings. You know, obviously I've re-engaged. You know, with the current situation, I've just been having a fight reflex. So I've been having to work out or else I go mad. However, what that has brought back to me, and with a much deeper understanding, because I've sort of done it a different way this time, and I feel better and I'm much stronger than I was the last time I did this, because I went a bit hard in the paint. And I've done this a lot more methodically. But that struggle in the morning, you know what I mean? If you can, if I can push myself to get, look, and obviously I work from home these days, so I've got a different situation that I've been able to adapt to. However, you know, getting up here, whether it's in the House of Pain or pulling the bike shorts on, doing that thing before you attack your menial day, you are more patient because you've dealt with the demons already today. Right? That, you know, and I've had this conversation with Kath, you know, and she's like, I don't know how you get up in the morning and work out or ride. And I'm like, I've had to have that I sat her down and said, listen, I don't want to do it half the time. Sometimes I do, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm up, I'm like, yep, bang, let's go. Let's get into it. But there's a lot of times I don't at all. But that's the battle, right? It's not wanting to do something, volunteering to be uncomfortable and fucking doing it anyway. Right? And that's where the benefit lies. Right? And I think, you know, and
I think not only there, but it's the self-talk. So it's a form of, because you're locked into your own stuff, it's a form of meditation.
Yes,
in a
it is.
way.
Absolutely it is.
You talk to yourself,
Absolutely
like we
it
said
is.
before.
Yep.
You're talking to yourself the whole time.
Riding is my meditation.
Yeah.
Right? I can especially from the rail trail, I can let go, right? Because I know what I'm doing. The bike knows what it's doing, and I can...
But you are now in a quiet place.
Yeah.
That's where you are. Because like you said, those other things go into autopilot, and now you're in autopilot zone. You're sitting in this dimension where you're just a conscious brain floating in liquid, and all the senses are doing their job but you don't have to be consciously there. So you can wander. So yeah, once you tell the inner bitch to shut the fuck up and like, this is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. Yeah.
This is what we're doing so you can stop your whining.
Yeah.
You know, the legs are burning, but I know I'm running at 3/4 capacity. So I'm not going to burn out anytime soon.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
Yeah.
yes, it's discomfort, but I don't need to stop.
No,
I've been here before.
Yeah.
I've felt this.
Yeah.
So then you can wander and you just, in that subdued state, it almost subdues that section of the brain. And in that subdued state, you can talk to yourself like I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I can ask you things
Yeah.
and it's subdued.
Yeah.
So it just talks
Well,
instead of fighting.
It's a thing in my house. Kath will ask me when I come back from a ride. She's like, "What's your takeaways? You know what I mean? What did you learn on the ride?" Because I will go and I will come back, and because I've had that space,
You'll be changed.
that process,
Yeah.
I will have thought patterns on the ride that I don't normally have.
Not also to mention like the whole runner's high aspect.
Yeah.
In terms of the chemical dumps you get from taking yourself to sort of that level.
Oh, dude, look, as I say, you're 25 Ks at 20 Ks an hour. You have to regulate your breathing.
Your breathing, your heart rate,
I have
cadence,
to. My cadence.
Everything has
my
to be in
gears,
balance.
Everything.
Yeah, because otherwise, you'll burn out.
Yeah.
And we also know this. The slower you go, when you try and take it easier on yourself, you actually just extend the period of time.
Yeah, that's right.
You extend the torture. So that's why it's better to sit at a certain level of discomfort that you know you can maintain, that you're not going to burn muscles out or, tire or anything like that. You know that that's most beneficial because that's achieving the goal in the shortest period of time at the maximum effort that you can do.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
And it's like, and the meditation also for me is that when I ride out, I'm definitely not at 100%. I'm at 60, 70%. I'm warming up.
Yeah.
My legs don't get warm now till I'm at the highway.
Yeah.
And then I get to wherever I'm going. Burrallen, it's been the marker recently. Mm-hmm. And I'll pause and I'll take a moment, man. I'll get off the bike and I'll take a moment to just appreciate the fact that I'm on the bike, away from home, in a space, and then I'll take a few deep breaths, a couple of gulps of water, and then I'm heading for home. And then that's a different target because it's like, okay, how many matches do you want to burn? Are you setting a time today, or are we just riding home? Mm-hmm. And then that's the decision. That's your voluntary discomfort again. And I've found that the biggest epiphanies or thought processes that I have, it's the harder I go. You know what I mean? Which is why most times now, when I get to the other end, I'll just go as hard as I can. Yeah. Right. And look, I might burn out on the the amount of times I've burnt out coming up that hill.
You're pushing the limit though.
Yeah.
You're finding where that edge is, and because you're coming home, you know that wherever you find it, you're going to be closer. Yeah. Whereas going out, you can't push it. Because if you're traveling the same distance out than you are back in. So if you push it and you burn out before you get to halfway, you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to do this. Your body's screaming and you have to start listening. Well, now you got to go back. So you're so far from home. So psychologically, it would be easier putting in greater effort coming home because you're getting closer and closer to home. So if you fail, there's not as far to go.
That's right. And I think I'm on autopilot from the sign anyway. You know what I mean? If I get to the sign, I'm home.
Yeah.
I've ridden that section of the rail trail hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Right? And that wouldn't be no joke by now.
Oh, no.
And yeah, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's interesting, dude. It all comes back to the self. You know what I mean? It all does come back to that triptych. So
speaking of self, this isn't a question, but some things I've been thinking about. This is my mental state where I'm at the moment. Is based off pretty much the things we've been talking about the whole way through. They would all base into you could categorize them all into a group of like basic skills.
Yeah.
Rudimentary sort of stuff. And when I think rudimentary and basic, I think about like it takes me to self-sustainability.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I think about. And the most popular one is like food production sort of thing. But then the upselling of the food production. So I start thinking about like making alcohol, making wine, that kind of thing. That's I could see that being I could see that possibly being something I pursue in the future.
Yeah.
And then I can also understand now, I've reached a level in my head, I can understand why people do it.
Yeah, and the process.
What they're getting out of it. I get it now. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well, look, mate,
that's what it is.
I think, man, if we're talking about self-sustainability, again, we're trying to avoid the current situation. I think it's one of the things we've lost sight of is that self-sustainability. And, I think we're gaining an understanding of how fragile the supply chain actually is. And the one thing, when we were kids, it wasn't uncommon for people to have a veggie garden.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
And at least a veggie garden that produced is what
exactly.
we mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
A lot of people have veggie gardens these days, but it
grows weeds.
No one does anything seriously.
Yeah.
Or,
but look, I
used to
remember
be
we
like
had one
market
as
gardens.
a kid. We had one as a kid.
Yeah.
And, I used to get the carrots up and stuff like that. And, Dad had put stuff back into the ground. You know what I mean? That's a skill set we don't use and we probably will need. And I think, depending on your choices, you in the not too distant future, we may have to rely on community gardens and people growing stuff and sharing and bartering and maybe going back to an old way.
Yeah.
But dare I say it, you know what I mean? Where and what do we talk about? We talked about again, clubs and tribe. We're chasing tribe, man. One of the reasons we created this thing was to create a tribe. And if you think about there's a core sort of 7 or 8 dudes that have been in the UTC. We've had some cool adventures, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, shit, yeah.
And that's what we're chasing, and it may be what we have to go back to. And I think, it's
and where I'm at, I've accepted that, and then I've parked it.
Yeah.
It's not so much the why for me anymore. I'm more excited about the journey.
Yeah, exactly, man.
The why is in the background. It's pushed me to where I'm looking. So now I park it. I know why.
Yeah.
Don't need to think about that anymore.
That's right.
What I need to now focus my attention on
how do you achieve that?
Is learning those things that are taking my curiosity.
But yeah, I think I think we're talking about, if you go back to actually what we've talked about tonight, what you've asked me about is cycling, hunting, fishing, bushwalking, knife making. The call that we're all feeling, we're human beings, man. And we're meant to do the things that we've talked about tonight. We're supposed to have a cardio activity, even if it's just to supply food for our family, right? We're supposed to understand how to sharpen a stick so we can kill something, right? By the way, Mr. Tomlinson, picking a random stick and catching the only fish of the day, only fish of the weekend, didn't catch it, made a spear and speared the fucking thing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
He does that all the time.
I know, man.
You'll get used to that.
No, I love him. I love him. I think he's fantastic. I'm giving him kudos. That's fucking awesome. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I know. I know.
Anyway, but, these core skills, the reason that we're all feeling called to these core skills, and to be honest, that's the reason I haven't been doing a lot of podcasting is because that's what I've been doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the house of pain. I've been analysing. I've been looking at what gear have I got? What skill sets do I still have? What do I need to refine and work on? And which is why I enjoyed the trip so much, because it brought a heap of skill sets back into focus that had been out of focus for a long time. And now I've got and look, that was pretty epic trip. You know what I mean? It was awesome. You know, a lot of different variations and variabilities, a lot of learnings, and and can move that forward. But I think the reason we're being called to that is society's pushed us to a point where it's all obviously total bullshit. But not just, and then you talk about what have we learned over 5 years? Everything's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we dug into something and it's like, it's just on a bed of sand, right? No one fucking knows anything really, and it's at its final collapse. And at that time, those of us that feel the call come back to these core skills, man. It's like, okay, what can you do? You know what I mean?
For me, it's the last vestige of where you can go and not get bombarded by stuff.
Yeah.
You have to escape. Escape reception. That's your last vestige.
Yeah.
You need to get out of reception, because if
right.
you're in reception,
they're connected to the system.
They will fucking reach you.
Yeah.
And they affect you on a minute level.
Yeah, that's right, man.
So that's why you just, like I said, I understand the why.
Yeah.
I understand the why now, so I don't even think about the why anymore. It's just adapt and overcome sort of thing. And
so where do you want to go from here, mate? I was actually interested.
I'm happy to. That's about where I felt like I came to the resolution that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like when the part you're explaining at the end, sort of thing. Before it was, you pretty much showed me, you grasped the whole thought process of where I was traveling with. I touched on some old things that we've been doing, some things that would go with skills, like the knife making, and then where we could go from there, sort of thing. I'm more of a solutions person than a worrying about the problem. And if I can't control the problem, I'll find a different solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Where I took you tonight was my solution for our current problem.
Yeah, right.
Right. That was my whole thought process.
Oh, okay. I see what you did. Very clever.
There you go. I spelled it out. I showed the magician's trick.
Very clever.
But I wanted to share with you the fact that was my whole thought process. I wanted to
and
try.
I think there's a lot of learnings in there, isn't there? Well done.
I wanted to try and impart some positivity on you for the betterment of everyone. I feel like it's part of the solution to navigating the chaos right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to pay that positivity to you in this time when that's what people need.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that. But I want you to hit me, because we can't leave. We haven't even talked about aliens or any megaliths or something like that. Give me 2 questions, right? Crazy ones. Give me a crazy question.
Oh, fuck. Now you've put me. I'm off in the. I don't know. Shit, it was on the tip of my tongue then.
Where do you want to go? Anywhere.
Sorry, I'm blanking. This is terrible. I need to simplify my request. I need to try and slip something in to give me time to talk. Time to think, I mean. Look, pyramids, megaliths. All right, I'll try and tie it all. I'll try and lead it into a direction. I think I'm got something now. So, how many years? Two sort of directions. You can answer either one or both. How long do you think humans have been on Earth, or how many different civilizations do you think have come and gone?
Interesting questions. I think we probably need to split it up to how many hominids have existed on Earth and how long has that been? Like how long has there been upward walking bipedal animals? for want of a better, because that's what we are at the end of the day. I think millions of years. I don't know how many million. I think the latest footprint was Turkey or Greece. I can't remember. It was in the Mediterranean somewhere. And dated, and there's a whole different discussion on how they date it, but 6 million years, right? So, that's an accepted footprint that's been accepted into the nomenclature or whatever. So, how long have Homo sapiens been on Earth? Look, there's more evidence for a crystal spaceship crashing into the Earth than us being genetically modified pretty rapidly over the last million years to be able to do what we're doing right now, than there was that Jesus existed. So maybe that happened, right? That doesn't not make sense to me.
Was that
780,000.
Yeah, that's that theory.
That theory.
Yeah. No, cool.
As far as like how many civilizations have existed in an advanced sense since then, man, I don't think we'll ever know, dude. I think the level of cataclysm that happens on this planet and has happened regularly, whether it be through those advanced civilizations reaching a point where they blow each other up. There's trinitite glass found all over the globe. Is that meteorites? Is that nuclear detonations or high explosives? Whatever. That's open to debate. I think the current advanced civilization that we research and look at, like 70,000 years ago, whatever it is, we got down to 5,000 people worldwide, right? So they can trace our DNA to a group of Homo sapiens between 5 and 10,000. That's how many were left total 70,000 years ago, right? So I think a civilization existed between 70,000 and 12,800 years ago. And I think there wasn't too many cataclysms in that time.
But what about pre 70,000 years? So
Exactly,
if there was 10,000 left, what if that was a cataclysm?
Absolutely, that destroyed another civilization that, I don't know, right? And I think, look, man, all cards on the table. I seriously wonder whether or not the ant people are real, whether or not these Tic Tacs are coming from under the water, whether or not there is a fucking advanced race of beings that exist underneath the earth. Okay? Like, honestly. Because the evidence to suggest that is actually not insignificant. It's not accepted.
Speaking of
it's not insignificant.
Speaking of UFOs, how many alien races do you think there are?
Oh, that's an interesting question. There's an infinite amount of possibilities. You know what I mean? Like if we were to break it down to the Milky Way, I suppose we're not a very big galaxy.
I'm talking about nuts and bolts aliens.
Nuts and bolts aliens,
not light spirit aliens. Like
not interdimensional beings.
Exactly.
It makes sense to me that life exists on other planets. It makes sense to me that it would adapt to its environment and advance itself.
Yep.
We are led to believe that, as far as we know, there isn't anything out there. However, the more and more we get into the rabbit hole here at UTC, and look, are they here with us? Maybe, man. I don't know. You know what I mean? Would I be surprised? I think the thing is that I'm at the point now. I think I posted, it's a meme, and it's like, if an interdimensional fucking gateway opened up in the kitchen, I'd be just like, well, that's fucking something else I got to deal with now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But does it make sense to me? Yes. Right. Where are these Tic Tacs coming from? Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a number of different streams here, right? Do I think maybe we may have mastered anti-gravity technology, and there maybe is some black technology that, maybe they finally cracked the code on the UFOs? You know what I mean? Maybe. But how many races, man? It could be. There's an infinite number of possibilities. I think greys are obviously real.
Yep.
you get the lizard people, but
Yep.
I know you'll go
Greys, lizard people.
You'll get
Yep.
reptilians. You know what I mean? Are the lizard people from underneath? You know what I mean? Like, who knows? There's some of those reports. A lot of it obviously is bullshit. But what do we go with here at UTC? We go with the 1% rule, right?
Yep.
So if 1% of all the greys and all the lizard people and all the interdimensional and Skywalker Ranch and all that sort of stuff, if 1% of all that is true, then it's life-changing, right? It means there's entire worlds that we don't understand existing here with us on this planet right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, there could be...
Well, here's my explanation. Whether you want it or not, you're getting it. My explanation of
I didn't think I had a choice.
How the nuts and bolts aliens exist.
Yep.
Okay.
Chuck us those, I'll sort a couple out.
I have a theory where we ask the question, what if Earth, for some reason, is the center of the universe? And I don't mean physically, I just mean more important than we deem it, in terms of we're finding more and more planets within the correct distance from their star, etc., etc. And we claim, because we can measure the light, we can sort of tell the levels of like water and oxygen on the surface, that kind of thing, right? So they're in the Goldilocks zone and all that. But what if we're
200+ million, I think, at last count.
But what if we're missing something? What if we're missing something outside of those factors that make up our planet that we're not taking into account? Like, from that distance, can we...
I don't know if we can see magnetic spectrums.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Can we measure magnetic spectrum? Do they have a magnetic field? Now, that's one thing that I thought of, and then there's, for a more fucking educated person, there'd be 100 other things that the Earth has that we can't measure. And maybe a combination or one of those things are important for there to be life. So
I think that's the unique thing to Earth, is life.
And that's what I'm saying, is maybe we are the center of Earth, the center of the universe, where in terms
the galaxy, at least.
Well, yeah, let's stick with galaxy. That's fine, because that still fits within my paradigm.
Still fits within the theory that I'm trying to convince you.
Exactly, that I'm selling. Yeah. And that's all this is. But, so anyway, back in history, there's a time that we kind of forget about. And it was in amongst the time during the dinosaur. So the beginning of the dinosaur fossil record.
Yeah,
there is the fucking rise of the arthropods. Okay, so we're talking big insects.
Yes, yeah, giant dragonflies and shit. Yeah,
what is a race of alien that we know of? Mantids.
Yeah, the big insect people.
So, you've got mantids. They've either evolved to a point of consciousness.
Yep.
And then become spacefaring, travel off planet. Then you have the dinosaurs come along after that. Evolve to consciousness, build things.
Yeah, look, dude, the thing
fly off planet.
You've got
reptilians.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up now, Pa.
Okay,
I'm taking you to
Boona.
Boona.
Right.
I'm taking you to Boona. You just got to hang with me.
Past sundown an hour, mate. We're on the way.
So then you get mammals.
Yep.
Mammals come along, and the first civilization reaches spacefaring.
Yep.
Turns into greys.
Yeah, that's it. And look, that makes sense to me. Getting rid of the, just becoming of the mind and being the, you can see how a bipedal hominid would evolve to be a grey. Like the process of that makes sense to me.
Yeah, the loss of sexual organs. Like you think about our progression in technology now.
Yeah,
and you extrapolate that out into being symbiotic sort of thing, and you lose certain organs and stuff like that. You can understand the process to a grey. And then the ones that haven't been gone for as long are the Aryans. They resemble us the most because they are us, but they were a advanced civilization before us, but they're the most recent. Now these are just nuts and bolts ones because I'm not taking into account the mystical element of
the interdimensional
things traveling through portals and shit like that.
Yeah, which there's so many accounts of, by the way. Like,
which I think also kind of fits into the theory in the terms of Earth actually is where it all happens.
It's a waypoint.
It's actually the fucking cool spot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, we're fucked then. That's
So that's where the part of the theory where I say evolved to a point. How's this? What if the Sumerian legend is correct, the Anunnaki legend?
Yeah.
And what if they're the reason for everything that happened, as in they genetically modified the mantids, they genetically modified the reptilians, they genetically fucking modified the greys. They assisted in every
stage of development.
Are they that would then make them the space daddies that we've all been thinking of? Where did they come from?
Look, man, like I've said, the research never stops, and there is, 10 pages and a folder on my laptop that is actually the Sumerian kings list. And the fact that these kings ruled for 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, whatever it is, right? Look, I think we were downgraded. Okay? Now, something happened. Like, we know from the Masonic documents that it's actually the year 6021.
Yeah.
Right? What happened at 4000 BC? Something happened.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, were we downgraded then? Right? Now, what do I mean by downgraded? I think you think about the stories of dragons and magic and all that sort of stuff, right? That's all got to have an origin point. Okay? I do believe that at some point we had control of the elements, understanding of what crystals can actually do as far as storage capacities and energies and stuff like that. Remembering too that Muhammad told us that the Egyptian word for battery is crystal.
Yeah.
Right? However, and I think we had control over the elements. I think maybe we had access to, or more access to, our senses. And somewhere in the past, we were downgraded. Now, were we downgraded to be slaves? Maybe. I don't know, man. That's a personal belief of mine. Just because I think, you can train your other senses. Like you talk about, if you hang around the bush a lot, your spatial awareness is heightened. You know what I mean? Like that's
situational awareness.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You're more aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And that's a sense that some people don't have, right?
Yeah.
But something you can train. Imagine if that was dialed up to full capacity. Imagine if we used 80% of our brain capacity. Like we've got the most complex computer we understand in our heads, and we only, I think it's not 5%. I think it's about 20-something%. I think they've figured it out. It's not quite the low number we used to think it is, but it's not full capacity at all.
Yeah.
Right? So there is, as far as we talk about engines and stuff, we're only using 20% of the power. Like, why can't we use the rest?
Yeah.
What is that?
Or what would happen if we could dial it up to 100? Yeah.
Because, and do you have those moments like, like we talk, go back to some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. We would have had, we rode together when we were on the bowls at Colo, although, a fair few times. There was times there where we were chasing each other and we were in the fucking zone, right? We were in the flow state.
Yeah.
Right? It was us and the bikes and we were going hard and, you know what I mean? It was awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Is that state it's a different brainwave as I'm learning. However, is that a higher state? Imagine if you could maintain that state in a day-to-day existence.
Yeah.
Right? What would happen then? How would you see the world then? Because, the world's moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
When you're in that state, if you're doing something fast, right? The world becomes slow.
Mm. And how we were talking. So imagine living your life. That's interesting. Imagine living your life in that moment of flow with the mind state that we spoke about before, when you've basically beat your subconscious into submission.
Yeah. You are the God.
No, your consciousness, whatever.
Well, are we not talking about achieving the God self, man? That'd be in the zone, in the moment, in yourself, full understanding of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we are capable of that, because you can get glimpses of that, right? Whether it be through meditation or breathing techniques or riding a bike or,
And were we once able?
And were we once able to switch that on?
Yeah.
Right? And I think, again, did everybody have different skill sets? I think so, right? Because we all have different skill sets. That's who we are as humans. Our chosen abilities, you don't get everything, right? That's why the elite sportsmen are dickheads. You know what I mean? Like, you may be a magician with that ball, but you're a knobhead, mate. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's very few of them that are decent blokes, you know? And so would have had our skill sets. Maybe some of us had control of the elements. We could manipulate fire and water and air, because the older stories speak of that. The cave paintings speak of, like the oldest indigenous stories we have is that there was a time where, and how the fuck did they move 3,000 ton blocks, right? They had control of the elements, of magnets, of sound. They knew they could harness the earth in ways that we don't understand. Right? The scoop technology that we saw echo through Egypt and Peru, that little rabbit hole we went down last time. I've seen now, obviously, and it's how it happens, isn't it? Okay, I've noticed that those 2 dots. Now I've seen another 15 dots since then.
Yeah.
That back up that is what. However, that's how they move the big. That evidence of that technology is how they move the big stones, right?
Yeah.
That's the technology they used to cut them. Whatever it was, sonic, whatever, you know what I mean? That is a deeper understanding of the elements, right? That's a deeper understanding of a technology that doesn't seem to be as invasive as the technology that we have created for ourselves now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's just a different solution to the same problem.
Exactly.
And the majority, at that moment, the majority of their population thought this was the best idea. Whereas our population said this was the best idea. And
I think we like to think, that there was a Goldilocks civilization. We like that idea. I'm not entirely sure whether it existed on a global scale. I think that maybe, like going back to the triptych and going back to the solution and unlocking the code, I do think that the builder culture, to a point, was the last time that science and spirituality were one, when we understood that the immaterial and the material matter just as much as each other, right? And through that understanding comes these advancements in technology, because you're harnessing, it's like, what do we see? 2% of the light spectrum or something, like 1% or something. We don't, 99% of what's going on around us, we got no fucking idea. So imagine if you could access that 99%. What's in there? How many beings exist in that spectrum?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And what energy is there to grab from there. You know,
Yep.
because you talk about you talk about old school stuff, the pentacle on the door now. That's earth, air, fire, water, ether, right? And ether was the thing that binds everything else together, right? Ether is the energy of the fucking universe, man.
Mm.
That's, and we don't understand that at the moment. We can't. But if you could grasp that and use that,
Mm.
you know, the earth provides, man. We've got a magnetic spectrum. We've got, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's ways to harness what's going on here on this planet.
Well, that leads me a little bit into the thinking of back to the interdimensional sort of thing, because you've got people who can channel,
Yeah.
apparently those people and converse with them, talking with angels or watchers or stuff like that. Shit. I
Lost the train
blanked.
of thought. Angels, watches.
Angels, watchers, interdimensional, converse with them. What was your point? Sorry to be a pain in the ass.
No, I was talking about the fact that we had access to
Boom.
different energies
Thank
and
you. You brought me
different
back to where I was.
understandings, and
So-
once upon a time we knew better than we do
So
now.
is that channeling, the people that have the ability to channel, is that a hark back
Exactly.
to somewhat of tapping into
an
the
echo.
ether,
It's an
the
echo.
ability to tap into the ether that we once had?
And that's the sort of thing that leads me to believe that, right? Because there is Tibetan monks that meditate for long enough that they levitate, right?
Yep.
That has happened multiple times. Now that takes them 20 years and they don't do anything but. However, is the human being capable of doing that? Yes.
Mm.
Yes, it is, right? So imagine if you just had access to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, imagine if you could draw on, one of three abilities or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? Like, I think once upon a time we had that. Look, knowing us and knowing humans and obviously, observing the chaos that reigns,
I just had
we probably got it taken away from us because we fucked up.
I went down a path then, right?
Yeah.
What if part of the meditation, what if part of the realization they have is, and because this is why, like,
There is no spoon.
you know how people always, I was thinking about debunking
Yep.
things when you mentioned monks levitating.
Yeah.
I was like, why is it that you can never capture the things happening on camera?
No, they have a few times on that with that.
I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, might not be.
But it doesn't matter, because what I'm getting at is, what if the reason you can't capture magic on camera is because magic is in the belief of the person doing it
Yeah, it's in the beholder.
and the people watching? If the people watching believe he can levitate, and they see him, they believe he believes, and they see him levitate, who's to say they didn't see that?
No.
That is what they saw.
It is what they saw.
If that is the truth
And
they
that's-
saw.
and that's what he
that is.
experienced, yeah.
But here's the messed up thing, right? You throw a camera in to try and capture that.
Three-dimensional technological object, yeah.
It can't capture that. Because it's not about what visually happens on this plane.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen on this plane. It happens on another plane.
Yeah.
And it's only in the believers in that area that see it. But everyone in that area is a believer.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. But see, imagine, just for a second, imagine a society of people that understood the God self, that understood that science and spirituality were one, that the immaterial and the material are the same. So you had a collective belief that, yeah, it's all good.
Well, also that we are capable of those things.
Yeah.
If everyone in the whole world believed we are capable of mind over body, like feats, like levitating,
Yep.
then it would happen.
Absolutely would
Because
happen.
we all believed it did.
Yeah.
We thought our pissy little receptors in our head that pick up 1% of the light spectrum,
Yeah.
we thought we saw it, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's what happened. If everyone believes something happened, that's what happened.
Yep. And what could you will into existence, man? If you could grasp the God self, and again, we've given multiple examples, and everybody listening's probably heard or not heard, has grasped their version of the God self, man. If you could grasp it, and you could hold on to that for more than those, because we're in the zone at Colo. It wouldn't have been for more than 30 seconds. They're like 30-second or minute intervals, sections. Before you drop a wheel.
And the thing is, you don't always get there.
No,
not on every run.
Not on every run. No, definitely not.
If we hit flow on every single run, we would be fucking world champions.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly, yeah. If we're doing 15-minute Colo laps, we're taking it somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right, 100%.
But yeah, man. Well, I don't know, dude. I think maybe we finish it on that. I think because that concept, I think. And you want to end on positive. Part of me believes that, well, not part of me. I do believe that concept could happen again. Right? Is there some discomfort between now and then? Yeah, probably, because we haven't learnt the lessons yet properly. However,
but is it lessons that we as a society can learn, or is it a fork in the road? That point where a decision was made, and a certain type of society results, and have we forked in the road? And for us to get to that point where another society did, we'd have to fucking traverse horizontally over ranges.
Well, I wonder.
They're separated by a massive margin.
Do you know what, man? I maybe see the beginnings of a representation of that type of society emerging from the current situation. Because the people that have chosen not to comply, we have a common understanding as to why. And no one cares what colour you are, what religion you are. It's like, if that's the decision you've made, then I respect that, because we want to actually maintain the freedoms and the freedom of choice and understanding that we deserve as sovereign beings, right? And if we can collectively choose that, right? Imagine if we get the silent majority to choose that. What would that do? Everybody chooses to be cool and understands why a decision was made, and therefore that one instance creates a ripple effect where, okay, it's all cool, and we understand that we've taken too many wrong turns, so we need to search for a different way, and maybe honouring the old ways, which goes back to exactly what we talked about tonight, isn't it? Hunting, fishing, knife making, survival skills, bushland.
Well, and the end result of a lot of that comes back to self-sustainability.
Absolutely, man.
And through self-sustainability, you can achieve independence from corporations. That was where my sort of idea was going.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of, that's why that is the solution. Because although the majority has the people power, the minority has the money power. And in the current world that they're holding on to, the money power reigns supreme over the people power.
That's right.
Because the people will do anything for money.
Yeah, that's right. And if you take that out of the equation, and what I think is
that's how we, you can't get anything overnight.
No.
Unless you tear everything down, and the thing is, no one's ready for that.
No, not yet.
One's not by a fucking.
No,
everyone dies. You tear it down, everyone dies.
Yeah, right now we're in big trouble.
That's it.
But look, I think
that's where the slow crawl.
But I think that the purity of that idea, right? Because it's it's the purity of freedom of choice, man, right? And
also freedom of choice and accepting the suck.
Yeah.
because it's a different lifestyle and there's different sucks than what you're used to. And it's training yourself, like we were saying about hunting
Voluntary
and fishing.
discomfort, man.
It's training yourself to have a set of skills that will prepare you to accept a new discomfort.
Yeah. And I think, and one of the things, you'll talk about another lesson, and maybe the Warrior books have got something for us, man.
Let's end on a Warrior book.
Talk about,
hit me with your thing.
Yeah, talking about probably the last lesson, unfortunately, as humans, is that we haven't quite figured out how to learn properly without discomfort. You know what I mean? We don't know. The only real way that we truly learn is through discomfort. And it'll be okay. However, choosing sovereignty as a human is actually more important than anything else. It's more important than money. It's more important than anything else. But the thing is, a lot of people haven't got to the point where it's worth that. But they might, and they should. And it'll be okay. And we can be cool. And we could probably reach a place where we understand that science and spirituality are one, and the God self is what it is. What do you got for us, man? End it. What do you got?
So our finishing notes are...
He's done it again.
You're going to piss your pants.
Right.
When you have a decision to make and you are back and forth about what to do, the first thing that you must look at in order to make the right choice is whether or not the action is honourable.
Of course it is. Yes, very true. Oh, man.
There you go. So that was the end of 150. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming.
We will talk again. Not sure when, but we will.
Mechanism signing out.
Look after yourselves. Stay safe. Be kind. Be cool. Be disciplined. Prepare. And we'll talk soon. Cheers. Do you just want to go again?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Go again.
All right. I know you been here before. No surprises, settle the score. I know the darkness deep inside, reckless rage, poison pride. I know the anger, I know the pain, and I know the fear we do not name. And the one who comes to find me when my time is through, I know you, I know you. Wow! I know you. Better.